right, Tamasius, thank you for the playlist. LA fire spread with new evacs. Why did the fire hydrants run out? Top news of the day, I'm gay. Okay, dude. Good to know. Facebook and other tech billionaires right wing pivot more. Get in now. Morning voice. Yeah, I got that morning voice. Okay. Interviewing incarcerated firefighters later. Do we have a blast on meme or not? Hassan, how do you have so much aura? I don't think I do, but thank you. How's the Japan planning going? It's going crazy. It's going freaky. It's going freaky. All right, where are we at? Well, do we have a blast off meme or not? Are you going to talk about the 2 North Korean soldiers working that caught by Ukrainian troops? Yes. Is Morg going to Japan too? Who's Morg? I hope you stream again with Dog Va. That Japan stream still lives in my head. Oh, absolutely. What's the name of the comedy group you watched yesterday about fires and climate change? Oh, RDC. Morg Pie, bro. I don't. Why would I know that? Anyway, okay. All right. Where is? I don't have a blast off meme, do I? Y'all got nothing for me, dude. Y'all got nothing for me. All right. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm blasting off. Get mocap by Kajimbo. That's a dream, but it's probably, we'll see if it happens or not. Okay, here it is. I aspire to make a blast off meme one day. Don't worry about it today. I'm blasted. I'm blasted off already. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do it. Let's go. Let's gore. Why is Hassan asking for a blast off meme as if he's our manager at 5 p.m. and we didn't hit our deadline? That's because it is the case. It's because I am your manager. Turns out I'm your manager and not the other way around. Okay. Are you always caps lock? Who gets to send blast off memes? You can send it to me. If you're a subscriber, you can send me links. So that's one reason to subscribe. For $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime, subscribers get to send me links. Even though there is no, there is no guarantee that I will click on them. Anyway, here's a moment from my interview yesterday.
And we accreted them to the national agreement.
Sean O'Brien, leader of the Teamsters.
We won that, and we accreted them to the national agreement. And it was good that that happened because we exposed them. They're actually suffering from a disease called diabetes, right? And they should be actually telling the truth that they don't want the Teamsters Union, that they don't want to allow us to organize. So I went to the first opening negotiations in November, and I'll tell you, I'm a person, a leader that believes in leading from the front. I believe in discipline and having respect. Whether I like you or I don't like you, you're my opponent. I'm going to respect you until it's time not to respect you. So we sit down at these negotiations. They show up 45 minutes late. We have a whole negotiating committee, rank and file there. And I ask them right across the table before we even start, let me ask you fools something. If one of our members showed up late for work, what do you do?
Diabetes. Speaking of diabetes, apparently James Woods also has a little bit of diabetes where his house survived the wildfires. So, he probably thought it was actually on fire though, because his neighbor's house was on fire. All right. Anyway, where were we? Okay, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. I kind of want to do a docu-series if there's anything later that we can look at as far as a documentaries on the incarcerated firefighters in general. But yeah, updates. California wildfires are spreading and evacuations have been issued.
Coming forward and not knowing where they're
It's moving on both sides of that same hilltop, where on the one hand it's going into Brentwood, on the other hand it's going into Encino. It's pretty terrifying stuff. I know a lot of people that live on both sides of those.
So let's hope that is an indication that maybe a lot of people did heed the warnings and get out. But the fact that the numbers are so far, at least, as low as they are is quite remarkable when you think about the scale and scope of these fires, and we say fires plural, that we've been dealing with in Southern California.
Well, Sheriff Luna did point out that the majority of the cases that they have
and yeah, winds are going to pick up on Sunday, Monday again.
In the deaths, that these are people who had chosen not to evacuate. So a lot of the, even the personal stories that we have heard from some people who have tragically died, their family members had seen them prior to them evacuating themselves.
Oh, this is Vice, that from incarceration to firefighter.
At a moment's notice, and then after all was said and done, they asked crews to go back there, and unfortunately, that scene ended in a very tragic way. Yeah. We're looking at this picture now, which actually looks a little better. I pause a little bit because it looks good, and then all of a sudden we see another loom up again.
This is a show about incarcerated firefighters? That's crazy.
And, just a beautiful sight when you see that bright red.
Yeah, here it's moving towards Brentwood as well, my old stomping grounds.
This is into putting out the fire. We saw a lot of smoke there, and then in an instant, they're able to put out a big chunk of the flames that could be racing towards homes.
And that has been the theme that we've seen in fire after fire since those initial two fires started on Tuesday in Palisades and Altadena. Initially, they couldn't fly because it was just too windy, and we saw the results of that. We also saw the lack of water on the ground that made things harder. But since then, we have seen really urgent, massive flare-ups that look incredibly threatening. And obviously this one got to property there, but we saw this in West Hills, we saw it in the Hollywood Hills, and we saw it really last night as the fire approached Mountain Gate and approached other parts of Mandeville Canyon. They were able to stop it because of the air resources that they have. It is the most effective resources that they have, is what we've seen from the air. They can drop the most amount of water or phos check on really quickly, and they are effective, but unfortunately not for this particular homeowner here.
This graphic, oh my God, ain't no way. That's a penis.
This is the.
That's just a penis. Santa Ana winds pick up Saturday night into Sunday morning in Southern California, but possibly a strong wind event is coming early next week as the wildfires continue. It is crazy that, like, geographically, I don't know. I mean, I guess like the way that Los Angeles is located in between all these like mountains, those sorts of winds don't end up impacting like the greater metropolitan area is wild. Like, it just literally surrounds. It's just straight up punishing the valley, punishing all the way out to the water side on like Malibu and Pacific Palisades. Things could change, of course. Oh my God, Hemet, Mama, we made it. Bro, this is the worst way to be recognized, you know? This is the worst way to be recognized. What is this? You are the media now? 3:26 p.m., 1:10:25. Wait, what? I heard from my brother, a firefighter in Central Oregon, that 60 fire trucks in the state sent support to LA fires are being held up in Sacramento for emissions testing. They likely won't pass inspection and won't be able to help. What a joke. The Oregon strike teams arrived Thursday and are assigned to the Pacific Palisades fire. 11 of the teams began their assignments this AM. The teams are motivated, committed, and excited. What do you mean? Yeah, this guy is just stupid and wrong. What are you talking about? Is this the joke? Oh, the joke is that you are the media now, as in people just lie, and then those lies go super viral, and then like here you have left post just needs a few more likes before Elon. This is a crazy quote tweet. Yeah, it's so nutty, dude. It's so nutty. Look at this. Look, these guys are actually working on the ground already. This guy hours later is already this guy hours after they've already posted about it. Oh my God, Linda Yaccarino. Oregon sends 60 fire trucks to California. California won't let them into the state because California is unsure of emissions on the trucks. California is a joke. Get out while you can. We sent 75 fire engines. Your statement about our teams not being allowed into California is false. Our teams arrived yesterday and are working around the clock to help our neighbors. Dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you right now, these people they have to be doing this deliberately. They have to be doing this deliberately. They just straight up want you to not trust any real resources. I don't think this is incompetence. I think this has to be malicious, dude. I think this has to be malicious. It is so psychotic. It feels like we talk about TikTok, right? We talk about TikTok and how like the Chinese influence on TikTok is so pervasive and how this is terrifying for American national security. We have national security concerns. And it's like, but look at this. We're doing it to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves with some of the wealthiest, most powerful individuals on the planet. Like, this is so insane, dude. How can people not recognize that this right here is terrifying? Okay. Virtually all the information that you get on Twitter about anything at this point, at least like the first 5 top performing posts are just going to be straight up lies that right wingers have just concocted. And now Facebook is like, yeah, we're going to fire our moderation team. Like as though they have anything but just AI slop on there anyway. Genuinely breaking the brains of all of your elderly family members, all your elderly relatives. But it is so, this has to be malicious. Yeah, finally a community note arrives on the original post hours later, after it already had a couple million views and thousands of retweets. At 48,000 likes, it gets hit with a community note. And now a deletion and retraction, which I'll give him credit for doing more than many, but rings hollow after posting his brother, an Oregon fireman, just told him the trucks were being held up and claimed this was email from the chief confirming they're stuck in emissions inspection. Good morning, all. To chief. It's my understanding that the 60 apparatus that were sent to California are sitting in Sacramento waiting to be inspected. It is sad that there's not a better process to be able to render aid to those in need. I hope that Oregon is better prepared if the situation is ever reversed. Seems like it worked pretty well, no? Could be faster, but the alternative is what exactly? Hank Green says, I cannot overemphasize how much of you are seeing a distorted version of reality in which the world is ruled by incompetence and evil if you see everything through the lens of Elon tweets rather than actually engaging with your community. This is so devastating. It's a larger point that I'm going to be talking about with Mark Zuckerberg as well and what these billionaires are doing. But it is genuinely shocking. I'm still kind of surprised Republicans still bother with ASL interpreters at the rallies and stuff. Seems like the kind of effeminate woke nonsense they'd have to rid themselves of. What is this? I'm sorry, but we have to stop with the ridiculous sign language interpreters who turn serious press conferences into a farce. There are closed captions on all broadcast channels and streaming services. No wild human gesticulators necessary. Oh my God. Oh my God. Christopher Rufo saw this and was like, yeah, it's time to eliminate disability access. Oh my God. That's amazing. They just have no policies. It's just purely making things worse. What a wild turn of events, man. Yeah, I saw this as well. Rogan's podcast used to be about comedy, martial arts, and conspiracies, and now it's just basically laundering the reputations of supervillains. Yeah, I 100% agree with this take. I've been very frustrated about this as well. I'm going to be talking about this in a little bit as well. But like, this man went from conspiracy theories that like sometimes are anti-government to basically having exclusively billionaire supervillain defense contractors, dude. And it's crazy because these are the people who think this is independent media. Like, his audience is comprised of so many normies, your coworkers, who are like, I don't trust mainstream news, brother. And there's like valid reasons not to trust certain narratives in mainstream news, okay? But it's crazy to me that those guys then go and listen to a conversation with a supervillain billionaire who is laundering his reputation in broad daylight by talking to Joe Rogan, someone that you like. And half the time they're also talking about like, you know, defense contractor shit. It blows my mind. Like, what do you mean? If when CNN does interviews like this, you go, oh, what the hell? These guys love the elites. But when Joe Rogan does it, it's like, oh no, he loves the elites in a cool way. I love this elite as well. It's just so... It's so annoying. It's so annoying. Everything is so broken beyond a state of repair, you know? It's just, I don't know.
This has grown. Things have grown. Nothing has burned down in like a half a century.
Wow.
So there's so much vegetation, so much growth there. There's a lot of fuel to burn.
Sam Dubin, can you hear us now?
Yeah, Alex, you hear me?
I can, although I heard myself too, so I don't know if there's a way to. Anyways, we were talking
If
about.
you guys can hear me, I'm just going to start talking here.
Yeah.
So we're up here on Dirt Mulholland, which is a fire road up here in the Santa Monica Mountains. That right up there is just above Mandeville Canyon. That is the Nike missile site. It's a former missile site that was used in the Cold War, and now it is a park, and you have a lot of firefighters up there taking a stand. It looks like they were possibly able to protect it. And just below down here is Mandeville Canyon, and you can see the red from the drops these tankers have been making, and it's all white smoke right now, which is a very good thing. And then just below here is Mandeville Canyon, and where the fire currently is that is the Gardenland Fire Road. It's a fire road that goes from Mandeville Canyon, goes up to those power lines and up to Westridge, which is just up to the left here. But that's where the flame is right now. And then here is Mandeville Canyon, and you can see the homes down here in Mandeville Canyon. Looks okay right now. I don't know about the top part of it, but that is Mandeville Canyon right down there, and it looks okay at the bottom part so far. And then this is Mountain Gate up here, which is where Ed Lascos was live last night. And so far, the fire has not made its way there. There's a ton of firefighters there. And there's another trail. Let me just step back really quick. This is the Canyon Back Trail, and it's normally a very narrow trail, and the bulldozers have just come in and plowed it completely all the way to Mountain Gate. So you can see that they're taking a very, very hard stance here. More resources up here, but right before you guys...
From what I understand, by the way, at least like the people I've talked to, Gavin Newsom is very bad when it comes to, eviscerating the homeless. That much I will always have smoke for him for. But as far as like funding firefighting at the state level, people don't have that much anger and resentment towards Gavin Newsom, for the record. So if you're looking at the Podjohn's interview with him, like Gavin Newsom's mismanagement is not the major story in this situation, as much as it is a local problem, as much as it is a LA specific problem. Like, I would rather have smoke for Karen Bass than Gavin Newsom on this particular subject, even though he's obviously a magnet for this kind of hatred as well, because he's such a nationally known liberal figurehead. Obviously has a tendency to go on television and put himself out there like this. But as far as like adequate funding and adequate spending on CAL FIRE and like statewide initiatives, from what I understand, he actually greatly increased the spending on wildfire prevention and things of that nature at the state level. So overall, I think there are plenty of things that you can criticize Gavin Newsom for. There are plenty of things you can criticize him for, especially as it pertains to homelessness, especially as it pertains to his mighty pen that he uses specifically to veto so many initiatives that people vote for democratically but never actually end up getting. This is not one of them. He's essentially being blamed for an uncontrollable firestorm that could have not been prevented no matter how much you fund the fire department. Yeah, I'll say it. I say it like this, and I did bring this up as well. Even with Karen Bass, like as it pertains to the mismanagement that the LA fire department got, right? Additional management or additional funds, would it have been able to actually successfully combat this fire? I don't think so, right? Because it's a natural disaster, right? Like it certainly would be better. Okay. And there is absolutely anger and resentment that you can direct towards the local governance and the mismanagement in this process. But as far as funding initiatives and trying to figure out what went wrong here, as far as I understand, I don't think Gavin Newsom is as responsible. I mean, a lot of fires before this one were because he didn't enforce energy infrastructure maintenance. I don't think he's the biggest culprit for this specifically, though. There is also truth to that, for sure.
Them to get on the fire quickly. I mean, we think about the private firefighters during that first fire night on Tuesday night. There were blocks and blocks burning where there were no firefighters to be seen for hours. And that's part of the reason that this got to be as big and as bad as it was in terms of the devastation.
Yeah, not having enough firefighters in this situation is partially because we just don't have enough firefighters to deal with not one, not two, but three, and sometimes even four wildfires at 80-mile winds, okay? But the successful way to ensure that there is at least as much prevention as possible is to have a very well-funded fire department with enough hands, with enough trained individuals. I hate you communists so much. Yeah, this is the fault of communism and communists in general.
Right.
You're right.
So now that we have these curfews in the various fire zones, curfew in effect from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, we had those 2 press conferences this morning, and there were no reports of looting, although they were very serious about anyone who violated that curfew and was found walking around. A couple of arrests of people just seen walking around the area, and then yeah, they took them into custody, because in order to get into these areas, you really have to be very creative, because
Right.
these checkpoints and security checkpoints are very tight. So
and we saw that yesterday in this area, especially in Pacific Palisades, on Sunset, near Amalfi. They have these just long lineups of cars that are just waiting for hours to get into the neighborhood. I mean, people were telling our reporters last night they're waiting 6+ hours to try to get home.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, I mean, it's frustrating for a lot of people to see that, and but then you get into these areas once you get in, and it's so stunning,
right,
to see the destruction up close.
Yeah, lots of folks having a tough time getting in too, because people escaped at a moment's notice, and they didn't have any of their ID. They don't have a property deed, anything that says that they actually live in the area, and unfortunately,
Why do 40-month subscribers do this? Did you see losers on Twitter celebrating because they thought your house burned down? Yes, they literally celebrated. They are Sam Hyde fans. They like a pedophile Nazi. Okay, they're fans of a pedophile Nazi. I love when those people cheer for my death and destruction. Okay, those are some of the worst people online. Why do you even bring that up as a 40-month subscriber? Is the question I have for you. Okay. Yes, dude. Yes. People who genuinely love the work of a out and about pedophile Nazi despise me so much that they fantasize about my house burning down and celebrate it. Those people are my enemies, and I love that. Okay. The real question is, why are you, as a 40-month subscriber, bringing that up right now?
And frustration through all of this.
And everybody has a story,
yeah.
And to everybody, their story is the most important story. You know, and so, you know, for if you're that individual and that's your life and that's impacting you, you want help immediately. Of course you do. And as somebody else says, well, I got my prescriptions, I got to get in there, and everybody's got their own thing. And when you think about the multiplying effect, Bob, of how many people are impacted at one time, how overwhelming that is for, frankly, our system of government services, which is not exactly known for working so great for people,
yeah.
And not exactly known for its customer service track record. And now to have this overflowing of the system is really overwhelming. And I think part of the challenge in the days ahead, you know, you think of day 1, day 2, we're in crisis mode, everybody's very forgiving and understanding. We start getting into day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The longest dead-end road in Los Angeles. We got that little fact from our Josh Haskell this morning. Look at how this road goes right along the burn area. I'm going to go all the way up to the dead end here. You can then understand why this area is under evacuation.
Do you still talk to Alex? Sometimes.
Of the burn zone.
He always wants me to go on a show, but I never have time.
And earlier this morning, if I zoom in here, is where a home burned. Just off of Mandeville Canyon to the west side, up in this area, is where we lost a structure. All of it, again, west of the 405 freeway, west of the Mountain Gate community. For those of people interested, here is where the Getty is located, right there off the 405. Maybe gives you some perspective of what we're looking at, what's at risk this morning as this fire continues to burn. Our coverage continuing right now with reporter Kevin Ozebek, who is in the Brent.
Alex is the host of Fox 11 that you can hear
Back into the
speaking right now.
You know, we've got serious winds coming tonight, right?
Yeah, they're still forecast to come and get a little bit stronger, much stronger than what they are now. We've been kind of fortunate when we've been talking about the winds, and we got a little bit of a break, right, from last night to this morning. Really, we've been seeing these winds nearing 10 to 20 miles an hour. Wind gusts a little bit stronger at times, and we've been talking about these pockets where the winds are a little bit stronger. And one of those pockets include that Mandeville Canyon area where things are a little bit gustier. And of course, we talk about how the fire will create its own wind and can get more erratic and get stronger in that area. But because the winds have been 20, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts at times, very easily one of those embers from the fires can get carried downwind, and I think that's what happened there with that home. Unfortunately, that burned in Mandeville Canyon. Looking elsewhere, just a quick pan around Orange County. Lighter winds here. We've got some of the brightly colored areas here through parts of the Inland Empire, Corona, specifically 18 to 20 miles an hour.
All right, this is the Brentwood Canyon
He's
part.
been standing there in position, ready to go, and he just decided, hey, those flames down right below, they're getting a little too close for comfort as they go up the hill, so he decided to take action, and we can see him now just dumping so much water over there, and a good sign. We love to see that white smoke, right? So just kind of interesting to see the firefight from this perspective as we are literally above it, Mark and Irene.
It is very interesting to see their strategy on how they handle each individual home. I mean, earlier we were also hearing chainsaws, Kevin, and they already have the defensible space, but I'm assuming that they were trying to clear additional brush and vegetation that could have posed a threat to this home.
Yes, yes, and that's kind of what they're doing here. They're looking at the brush because if you look around, even though so much has burned already and this Palisades fire has just taken acre after acre, I mean, just look to the right of those flames and where all that smoke is coming up. There's more vegetation. There is still a lot of fuel up here, so that's why this is not going to end anytime soon, and that's why this has already been such a long firefight, and why this is going to be continuing to be such a long firefight, because there is just so much brush that can still be burned. There is still just so much brush that is so vulnerable right now.
And so much of it about conserving the water. The firefighter was telling us earlier, no need to waste the water if they're there, if they can control it. And look, if it burns now and they're there, that means it's not going to burn again. So and you saw that firefighter right there almost lose his footing, kind of speaks to the terrain and the conditions that they're working in. All of it is so interesting. I know when we go to a fire and you're on scene, you kind of look to the posture of the firefighters and see, you know, how are they moving? What is their concern level? And seeing these guys here, it almost makes you feel a little reassured that they're ready, they're prepared, they got their hoses, and when needed, they use them, but they're not blasting the water, which perhaps, you know, speaks to the situation, speaks to the lack of an intense wind event right now, because we know the wind is going to increase more. Kevin, that being said, have firefighters at all conveyed to you any need to leave the area, or they think you're okay?
So here off of Westridge, these homes, Mark, we've not seen any residents. We've not seen any homeowners here. I think most people have already left because these flames are so close to some of their homes. So I do have to kind of jump off of what you were saying about how strategic this all is. Even though, I mean, we are feet away from homes here, these flames. I mean, so close, so close. I mean, this fire is in a residential area. There's no frantic energy from these firefighters. There's no panic. They are cool, calm, and collected as they kind of get in their position.
How bad would 100 mile winds be at this point? It would be devastating. It would have already lit. It would have carried embers all the way onto all of these houses. Wind is always devastating in these fires. It carries them miles and miles away potentially. It makes it infinitely more difficult to put out.
Not even only LA City. I mean, LA County, of course, as well, but the mutual aid, these fire departments that are coming not only regionally, but from beyond. It is
why does it feel like it'll only get worse? Right
effort.
now,
That's amazing. They come from
right
North Cal,
now,
they come from, and
it does
they
feel
really
like
do
that
help with this
because
firefighting
the
effort.
winds are going to pick up
Kevin,
again.
You've been monitoring this situation.
What is this? Anti-DEI is just becoming an accepted way to be racist, to be sexist. You can't as openly say you don't want women in that field or that you don't want black people. You can say DEI and mean all that because you're too pussy to openly be a bigot. It's weird that dunking on firefighters during a massive fire is what right-wing culture warriors have decided is the best expression of their politics. Starting to think that anti-wokeness has become the new mind virus. I mean, starting to think that, Leighton. I mean, welcome back to reality. Leighton Woodhouse is a former Intercept journalist. He's a former Intercept reporter. Him and a couple of these other guys like made this crazy, I wouldn't say like pivot, but they definitely, you know, lost the plot a little bit. This dude used to do fantastic work on white nationalists and stuff like that, like white nationalists and radicalization online. And then Lee Fong and him, and I've interviewed Lee as well, and Lee still does fantastic work when it comes to like corporate lobbying and whatnot. But they did kind of lose their minds a little bit on wokeness, how annoying it is and how annoying wokes are. And they kind of did that for the past 4 years. And now, I mean, they never really stopped doing good journalism in the process, which is interesting. Like they still continue to do good journalism on their own personal, the subject that they cover, their own beats. Like Lee has never stopped doing great journalism when it comes to corporate lobbying. But, you know, there are definitely a lot of, there's just like a couple things that I have serious disagreements with them on. And regardless of those disagreements, I still obviously appreciate the work that they put out there. And I'm glad that Leighton is seeing that, like, yeah, the culture warriors have been brain broken for quite some time. Yes, liberals get annoying. Okay, liberals do get annoying and have a tendency to be extra annoying and unproductive and engage in like purity spirals or whatever. But this is like unrestricted, unfettered, you know, racism and sexism. That's all it is. Like, look at this. Yeah, dude, we're not dunking on firefighters. We're just criticizing their leaders. Like, look at that. Yeah, the real woke mind virus has always been right-wing nonsense. Anyway, this is something that Elon Musk just retweeted as well. We pretend to work, they pretend to pay us. Old Soviet Union phrase. Infrastructure failing as absentee staff declare more time, more money. A fire chief focused on human sexuality. A mayor luxuriating in a presidential palace in a foreign country. Symptoms of a common broken system. This is from Barry Weiss's Free Press, which of course is also multi-billionaire backed. Remember, the Free Press is Barry Weiss's institution alongside the Austin University or whatever, the University of Austin, or the fake PragerU style unaccredited institution that she created. Basically, these guys are trying to create their own quote unquote independent outlet online when they're still heavily funded by the same billionaires. It's a grift. Okay. So what are they doing? What is Free Press doing in this crisis? What are they doing? Oh, that's right. They're cutting propaganda. Let's take a look.
Water to put out the Palisades fire. This is the Santa Ynez Reservoir. It's the water supply basically for the Palisades. When they first started fighting the Palisades fire, they ran out of water extremely quickly. Wednesday, 3 a.m., they were basically out. And there's been a lot of talk on why this happened. So how long has this reservoir been empty for?
Since February of last year. There was no communication from the Department of Water and Power to LAFD that there was a water supply issue.
The firefighters, when they started fighting the fires, no one informed them that the reservoir was empty. This reservoir holds 117 million gallons of...
It's what's crazy about this part of the story is like, yeah, the reservoir is empty because of a thing that your donors don't want. Okay. The reservoir is empty because of a thing that your donors don't want to recognize. The thing that like the foreign press, the Free Press's donors don't want to recognize, which is a historically dry, wet season that was supposed to bring in at least some semblance of rain, but it never did.
Water. The fire department was using water.
And I'm not even entirely certain that like the fire hydrant water is coming from this reservoir anyway.
Supply from 3 backup tanks, each one only holding 1 million gallons of water.
They say it's closed for maintenance to repair the lid that's on top of it. I don't know a lot about reservoir maintenance, but there's literally no
Wait, what do you mean you don't know a lot about reservoir maintenance? So why are you covering this story? So all you did was just drive over to the reservoir and just show that it's like dumped out? You're not doing journalism then. Investigate, man. Figure it out. Like, this doesn't actually end up informing me at all. It ends up deluding people further.
Construction materials or vehicles anywhere in sight. Also, with a reservoir like this, you can refill it or start to refill it. So another question is, if they saw the Santa Ana winds were coming and we have this remarkably dry wet season, why was there no attempt to start refilling it back up? I know I threw a lot out there, but I think we need...
Okay, these are great questions. If you are a real journalist, your job is to either A, go to Gavin Newsom's office and direct Gavin Newsom with these questions, or B, go to people that work in water management, either in the state of California or outside of the state of California, and direct these questions at knowledgeable people to find out what the answer is, rather than leaving it as a question in your commentary where the initial hypothesis is that there's mismanagement about. I don't really understand it, but I'm simply asking questions. Like, you're not a journalist if you do this. You are supposed to not leave these questions. The point of journalism is not to just go, oh, I'm just curious. It's to actually, appease the curiosity that people have. It's to actually go and ask the people who are in positions of power those exact same questions. It's to do some kind of research ahead of time so that when they actually respond to you, you can figure out the inconsistencies in their answers and direct secondary questions. That's what journalism is supposed to be. Can you imagine the old adage of journalism is a journalist's duty is not to hear from one party that it is raining outside and another party that it's not raining outside, and then just write it as though both sides are saying, different things about the rain. A journalist's duty is to open the window and look outside if it's raining or not. Okay? This is akin to basically not even doing any of those things and simply stating people have a lot of questions on whether it's raining or not outside. I have those questions as well. Homosexuals say that it's not raining outside. What do you guys think? You didn't do journalism. It's so frustrating. And these guys also masquerade as though they're like a reputable news outlet that has some semblance of independence as well, because they're online. Yeah, independent media, by the way. Uber also plans to host an inauguration party in Washington with Elon Musk's ex-social media firm and the Free Press, a media company. OpenAI, Meta, Uber CEOs attend Trump's inauguration events. And the Free Press is also going to be there as well. They're throwing parties. I wonder how that works for their supposed independent status. What a day to be alive for truth telling.
Southern California, as we all experience this together. We know so many tens of thousands of people are under evacuation orders. They are watching this, desperate for information about what is happening to their home. The good news, if you live in this particular neighborhood, is firefighters have made a lot of progress in the last couple hours using...
Can ocean waters used to fight fires? Just a question. I know the corrosive long time, but if there's an emergency, yes, and they do use ocean water. The problem with ocean water is that it ends up drying the land even further, so it's a much larger fire risk down the line. It also has the capacity to corrode the fire engines, like the people that are down there that are fighting the fires. It's literally a last resort, which is why it's still devastating, but people have been using that right now. Corrosiveness isn't the bad part. It's salting the earth. I already said that. It's salting the earth, which ends up creating drier vegetation, more fuel down the line. But outside of that, it also is corrosive to everything that's down there, including but not limited to the equipment that's down there. It's a massive issue. It's a massive issue, but it's a last ditch resort.
Family who will be incredibly impacted after losing just about everything. These flames continue to burn, and this is in large part because of the dense fuel.
Gotta love it when chat does your job, Lamau. What do you mean? I've repeated this over and over again. Michael Moore is the absolute GOAT. Yeah, okay. Let's dial this back for a second. And let's take a look at this coverage from last night and this morning.
New flare-ups from the
and updates overall. And there's a Wall Street Journal investigation on what happened with the water supply in California, in Los Angeles specifically. So
Pacific Palisades fire overnight. The toll from these fires growing. At least 11 lives lost. More than 12,000 structures, homes, and businesses damaged or destroyed. More than 55 square miles burned, and more than 150,000 people under evacuation orders.
The numbers are staggering, and this home security camera capturing the frightening moments flames close in on a home in Altadena that had been evacuated. Embers flying and taking hold, burning the home to the ground.
Just unbelievable devastation there. Here is a look at where the fires are right now. The biggest fires right now are barely contained. We have team coverage, of course. In a moment here, we're going to join residents as they return to their homes now in ruins, figuring out what happens next. But we begin here with the latest on that new flare. Matt Rivers is there. Good morning, Matt.
Yeah, good morning, Gio. We've been struggling really for the past couple days to really describe the scale of destruction. And so what we wanted to do this morning, we put our camera up about 10 or 15 feet off the ground. We want to zoom out and just give you a snapshot of one half.
Are you going to talk about Greenland or anything other than the LA fires? When have I only stuck to speaking about the LA fires? I've quite literally covered Greenland virtually every single day. I covered Greenland every single day, chatter. Every day. This dude literally makes almost like ban and control burns. Idiots, ban, control, burn, get big fire, weird. This dude really makes a living off you people, lol. Chatter makes shocking discovery about streamers. Chatter makes shocking discovery about Twitch streaming. Realizes that it would be infinitely better if I was a professional media broadcast that was sponsored by Raytheon rather than you. Okay, where I still maintain my editorial independence. You don't actually have to give me anything. If you don't want to, I don't run any ads. The only thing that funds this broadcast is your subscriptions, which you can do for $6 or for free, as a matter of fact. They make money here that literally my town funny. I don't even know what you're talking about. But once again, you don't actually have to subscribe if you don't want to. Okay, it's voluntary. Subscriptions give you some benefits, like being able to send links, being able to use the emotes in general, all around the platform, and sometimes avoid ads if I do run them, but I haven't been running ads since my contract ended, and I think people really appreciate that in general.
Of one block here in Altadena. This was a home here. That was a home behind me. Another home down the block. Every single thing on this half block of Altadena Drive has been completely vaporized in a matter of hours because of that fire. Gio, I've been covering disasters around the world for the better part of 20 years now. It takes a lot to shock me, but what we are seeing here is truly horrific.
This morning, apocalyptic scenes unfolding across Los Angeles as multiple wildfires blaze through the city.
With all due respect, I think you're being a little too lib-brain by saying there wasn't much Newsom or the mayor could have done to prevent this. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. You're completely misunderstanding my point. I have been incredibly critical of the mismanagement coming especially from Los Angeles County. What you're failing to comprehend in my statement is that these wildfires are so expansive and so fast in how quickly they spread due to 80-mile winds, due to the Santa Ana winds, that even if you had 1 million firefighters, it would be incredibly difficult to keep it under control. There's a reason why even the professional firefighters are saying the same thing. They're saying, like, yes, we are underfunded. Yes, we are underfunded. Yes, it would be better if we had more funds. Yes, there are certain instances where, like, they run out of water. But having said all of that, like, for example, water hydrants, right? This was a major point of contention in the first day. In the Pacific Palisades, they ran out of water on certain water hydrants. People are trying to figure out why that happened, right? In other places, they're talking about how there weren't enough firefighters. There was just like fires ripping through with no firefighters to combat it. Okay. And if you listen to the actual firefighters, if you listen to the fire chief, for example, she very openly says, at the end of the day, fire hydrants are not designed to actually combat a wildfire with 80-mile winds, right? They're designed for structural fires. It's designed to combat structural fires on a city block. If the entire city is on fire, then it doesn't, you know, the water, no matter how many water hydrants you have, you're not going to be able to combat it. If anything, the real, in my opinion, a lot of the mismanagement actually comes in the initial stages of prevention. Okay? The prevention and mitigation methods are busted in general. That is a real big problem because there's only so much you can do once the fires begin and try to combat them. Having said that, you need to do the best you can. You need to do everything you can to make sure that there are buildings that are up to code. Make sure that there's like no dry brush. Like there's so much you can do beforehand. The fire chief is saying that the cuts negatively affect the service in their response to the fires. They're almost out of 1/5 of their vehicles because they had mechanics cut. Well-resourced thread here. Yeah, we're going to talk about all of this. Yes. Obviously, that's why I said I have much more smoke for Karen Bass in particular than I do for California State in general and even Newsom, because I think that their hyper-focus on moving the budget around, absolutely did ruin key aspects of this. Having said that, okay, understand something. Having said that, even if they were completely funded, I don't think that they would still be able to. I don't think that they would still be able to stop all of these wildfires. Okay, that's all I'm stating. My point is that even if they were funded to the gills, there is no proof that they would be able to completely stop all of these wildfires. It's just not like at that point, it's just more so about like what you do before these wildfires start. Let's continue.
The Pacific Palisades fire flaring up once again overnight. Stunning aerial footage showing the inferno growing stronger and stronger. Even firefighters fleeing from the scene, forced to leave their vehicles behind. That fire only 8% contained. Massive plumes of smoke filling the air as first responders attack the flames from the ground and from...
Firefighters can't stop the root cause of these massive fires? No, that's not correct either. There's a lot of like, it's called fuel, right? Dry vegetation. And I don't know, like invasive vegetation in general that's like flammable. All of that stuff, like communicating that to every single person in a at-risk area and ensuring that people actually take the proper steps ahead of time to make sure that they clear out their area, they clear out their neighborhoods of all of that flammable material is something that the fire department could communicate. The problem is, if we're already mismanaging funds, okay? If we're already mismanaging funds, that's going to be an afterthought. Like that kind of stuff, the public-facing communication stuff, or the forced upkeep of supply lines, for example, like the power lines, ensuring that the brush and the vegetation that is overgrown on top of the power lines that are swinging wildly during wind seasons, like all of that is an afterthought because it's invisible until it becomes a massive problem, until it becomes a major issue. And even then, we still don't actually do enough power line maintenance, for example, because that's just how it works. That's just how capitalism works. It's easier for these utility providers to, you know, pay out these massive lawsuits after the fact, after, you know, hundreds of people, thousands of people lose their homes and hundreds of people die, even like in the Campfire fire that where 85 people died, right? It's easier for these utility companies to basically just, you know, pay out the victims after a long and arduous legal process, rather than, especially because there's no criminal punishments for the people responsible for this kind of cost cutting. It's much easier for them to just not do the maintenance and then pay off after the fact. Interface risks are a known issue from firefighters, but people with nice houses resist because of the landscaping aesthetic. Not disagreeing, by the way. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's like, again, local governance. Like, you're supposed to enforce these things no matter what.
Sky. Just one of many wildfires scorching through California. At least 11 people dead, including, according to the New York Times, 80.
That's not true. Utility companies get into so much debt if they're having to pay big dollars in fire lawsuits. Okay, well, they've already done the math. They consider it to be better for their profit margins, especially if they're short-term focused. I hate to correct you, but it isn't cheaper to pay out after these disasters. Yeah, no, it's a short-term bet. You're right. Thank you. That's correct. It is a short-term bet. They're short-term profit seeking. So for them, they would rather ensure that they don't do the proper upkeep and hope that it never, gets out of hand. And then they end up getting bailed out regardless. So it doesn't matter because there's no interest from any local or state official to actually take over these utilities, usually, even after decades of mismanagement. So they're just like, all right, whatever. Oh, you did stock buybacks instead of proper upkeep with the additional funds that you had, even after increasing prices, for example. Well, all right, it's fine. It's not like we can take it over. The other thing is we could have stopped these wildfires or at least hardened the city to make it far more resistant. Yes.
2-year-old Rodney Nickerson, retired pharmacy technician Erliane Kelly, and 66-year-old Victor Shaw, who stayed to fight the fire.
And I opened the front door and I just yelled in, "Victor, we got to get out. This is it. We have to get out. The fire's here." And I didn't hear him say anything. I heard him say nothing.
The authorities warning they won't know the true toll until they can safely enter those ravaged neighborhoods. In Altadena and Pasadena, the Eaton fire blazing on. The Hearst fire, the Lydia fire, the Kenneth fire, and the newest fire to break out, the Archer fire, also all still burning. In total, so far across Los Angeles, more than 150,000 people under evacuation orders, and more than 12,000 structures, homes and businesses damaged or destroyed.
This is just a devastating view as we fly over Pacific Palisades. You can see down below quickly these fires spread.
Satellite imagery showing the extent of the destruction, entire city blocks erased
insane.
from the landscape. Streets lying silent in the aftermath. Burned out husks, the only things left standing. These before and after images painting a chilling picture of vibrant communities reduced to ash. Neighborhood after neighborhood burned to the ground. Residents slowly making their return, only to find out they've lost everything.
Look at that. There's nothing we can do. It's gone. This is total and utter devastation.
Charles Nelson, a longtime resident of Altadena, the fire decimating his home.
It was our dream home.
A lot of people also don't understand that, the fire is more impactful than just like losing your shelter, which is obviously devastating, right? Your life is completely destabilized at that point. But more importantly than that, you lose remnants of your humanity, things that tie you to your loved ones, your prized possessions. Like, this is where you keep all of your things. Okay. It's not just your paperwork. You can replace that, but there are irreplaceable things that you have in your house, things that were left behind from your loved ones that no longer are with you, things that connect you to them. John Mayer actually had a really good point on this, and I reposted it on my Instagram. Hold on. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I think it was really good. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Here's what he said. This is the most valuable thing I own. It's a folder of photos of my father, spanning his life from being a baby, an educator, a husband, and a father. It's the only evidence of his life that will exist over time. These are the documents you read about people taking from their homes. When you hear someone say they've lost everything in a fire, this is much of that everything, if not all of it. Those who say they'll be okay still have their folders and their albums. Those who are inconsolable have lost them. Just behind the immeasurable loss of life is the loss of the proof of life. I don't practice prayer, but tonight I will say one for everyone who no longer has these items. It's not about the art and the collectibles. It's the photos, the letters, the class rings, the eyeglasses, and the things that we keep the things that we keep to remind us that those we loved were here. May those who have lost so much find some semblance of hope and support from their family and friends. Stay safe, look out for one another and yourself, and trust that humanity and all it entails, though sometimes hard to see, is alive and well. This is truly devastating. It's true. Like when your house burns down in a fire, a lot of people immediately start thinking like, oh, well, you know, you're devoid of shelter. But like outside of the material realities there is something immaterial, something infinitely more consequential for a lot of people. Things that remind them of their loved ones, you know, that are no longer with them. Like all of these cherished possessions. It's you know, it's genuinely devastating. People don't realize that after the fire's over, there's a grueling, awful process that takes years sometimes to get these houses rebuilt. Yeah, just verifying who owns what is a whole nightmare, and then insurance companies come in before you're allowed to even go into the homes. That's just the start. Yes, there's also opportunists at every step. There are opportunists that have already started the real looting process, okay? People who are, one, trying to immediately offer cash for the existing lots in people's weakest moments, okay? That's number one. Number two, you have price gougers in the rental market. Come February 1st, this is going to be a gigantic problem in Los Angeles. If it's not combated adequately, you will see the housing market go out of control even more than it was, okay? You are going to see the real looting, not the poor people that are messing around or are you know, trying to take advantage of the crisis to steal a television or something, okay? The real looting will happen at the point of banks, private equity, and the real estate market, okay? That is where the real looting will occur. The real looting will also occur on the insurance side as well. Just remember that. But you will not hear that. You will never hear about that in the news, okay? They'll maybe begrudgingly point to it every now and then. And it's already started, especially because the Pacific Palisades is like a relatively well-off neighborhood. A lot of the surrounding areas that have homes intact, single-family homes intact, are putting up rental properties that are double the already inflated rental market prices. If a single-family home for like 6 people to 8 people is going for $10,000 a month normally, which is already insanely inflated, right? Now it's going for $30,000 a month. I've seen it.
And you see the ash on the cars.
Yep.
You see it everywhere, and this is so toxic. We spoke again to a health expert and a doctor about the unhealthy, very dangerous air quality actually outside, particularly for those who have any upper respiratory
the fires haven't even been put down, and there's still people doing craziness
if you have some
like
kind
that.
of disease, this is just detrimental. And if you don't, this can certainly cause those kinds of things. So we encourage you to limit your activity outside. Just get in your car and go and get to where you need to go. I had a call from my son's coach about basketball practice, and I said, no, absolutely not. Unless you're inside in a gym. This is just very bad air quality all across the board, not just where the fires are burning, but across SoCal from Ventura South into Orange County, the Inland Empire. I heard you talk about the most destructive and the cost. I looked up these numbers here. Camp Fire is where we go, right, with the #1 deadliest, costliest fire in the state of California. And that burned, over 18 structures, almost 20,000 structures. Eaton Fire is the second one, with 7,000 structures right now. Tubbs Fire in 2017, you might remember that. Palisades now, I added the one because we saw with our very own eyes as it burned that home.
Yep.
So over 5,000 structures, but some preliminary estimates, which, by the way, the Camp Fire, they've been talking about maybe $12.5 billion.
Yeah, and that's Paradise for people that may be more familiar with that town of Paradise that was basically wiped off the map in that moment.
So many, hundreds of people died in that fire. They've adjusted for inflation at something like $12.5 billion. But now when we talk about the Palisades fire, where you see those multi-million-dollar homes, I mean, just the fires together, they're saying some estimates of $150 billion, potentially, dollars lost in these fires. So it's just staggering.
Yeah.
Staggering.
It is. I tried to get a specific answer from Governor Newsom on that, and he said it's way too early to tell, and if we start throwing around numbers, everybody's just sort of guessing. But he said, because he had been to the Camp Fire at Paradise with President Trump, the head of CAL FIRE I talked to also yesterday had been to the Camp Fire, and they both said that what you see in Pacific Palisades is actually worse. When you look at the scope of it, that it's the worst fire that they've ever been to.
Wow.
And in terms of just the scene and how upsetting it is to see it up close.
I have, you know, I'm from Hawaii. You guys know that. I've had some messages naturally from my friends in Hawaii, and they are triggered right now, especially when you think about the Maui fire and the Lahaina fire. And they're just also triggered, and of course they're all worried for our safety. We have such a huge
She said
connection.
don't play basketball. Chat, I looked up the AQI, okay?
And they
I
just
didn't play basketball this morning without looking up the air quality index. Calm down.
Devastation which continues. Look at these fires. The winds are going to get stronger. We talked about that. This is sort of that window where the winds are not so bad. They're definitely gusty at times, and there's definitely pockets of some stronger gusts that are coming in. And we're under this wind advisory. This portion right here, the Palisades fire, parts of the Santa Monica Mountains, extending into the San Gabriel Mountains. That includes the Eaton fire. These winds are coming out of the northeast, and they are gusting closer to between 40-45 miles per hour. Now, later tonight, at 6 p.m., we are anticipating a slightly stronger, at least the start of some stronger winds, and high wind warnings will be going into effect in this area here. So firefighters I know are considering that, and there's a strategic plan. I'm sure they're the best in the country here, if not the world, and they are, they had some backfires earlier.
Let's talk now more about the strategy. Eric Scott, the captain with the LA Fire Department, is joining us live on the phone right now. Thank you for your tireless work on this. We appreciate the daily Okay, apparently we just lost his phone signal, Maria. As we know, phone signal in this area are so challenging.
Yeah, Captain Eric Scott working tirelessly since the beginning. We talked to him when this started Tuesday morning, when it erupted, when the winds were just beginning to get strong. And I remember him saying how, if you see something, say something, because if you do not extinguish a fire or get to it within the first 20 minutes with the weather conditions we were in, it was going to explode exponentially, and that's exactly what it did.
Exactly.
Gigi Graciette has reestablished her shot. She moved to a different location there within the Palisades fire in Mandeville Canyon. Gigi, where are you? What can you tell us?
We're on Cordelia here in Mandeville Canyon, and joining me now live, Battalion Chief Brent Pasqua with CAL FIRE. He's obviously keeping a close eye on the fire. We are again on Cordelia, right above Mandeville Canyon. I mean, this has just been an intense firefight.
That's right. You can see the coordinated effort we have with the firefighters on the ground, working with our aviation assets, the helicopters, the large air tankers, dropping retardant, doing everything we can to protect these houses down below.
Now, we were talking, you and I, about those very large air tankers. We're talking about CAL FIRE assets. You brought in that very large air tanker contracted for this specific fire. And actually, I even see a hand crew way down there on the hillside. I don't know, Armando Hernandez, photographer, before I go back to you, Brent, if you can pan over to the left, actually down there in the bushes, we see hand crews. That is extremely challenging work.
Yeah, that's part of the attack. We go direct on this fire line. We cut fire line directly on it while the aircraft drop above us and slow the fire down.
And, you know, folks that are watching, obviously they're evacuated. Most have left. Some have stayed behind. They may be watching us right now. They may live right here on Cordelia. Describe to me what is going on up the street. I see strike teams basically stationed at every single house to protect that home.
That's right. We've really surged our resources into this area. We don't want to lose any more houses. That is our #1 goal. We don't want anything like we saw the first 2 days of this fire. These conditions are way more favorable. We're used to fighting fire like this, so we're ready to take the fight to the fire.
Wait, are fires still happening? Yes, brother. They haven't stopped at all. Isn't Southern California naturally supposed to be a desert? I heard that they're taking water from the north and that it dries the north. True. It is, yes, there are parts of California that are a desert. Yes. Okay. So, Here, I'll cover this as well. This is just Columbus. This is just the beginning of thread. Let me try to lay out what next 3 months is going to look like for the homeowners in LA who have lost everything in the fires. But before we do that, here is Fran, okay, talking about the impact this has had on her and her community.
This is your house?
This is my house. This one right here. We moved in 26 years ago. We did the floors and we put in windows and doors and painted and just put. My grandchildren loved it. My son and my daughter-in-law. My family, we hosted Christmas Eve and Christmas Day here, and everybody was here. My little house that I loved. My husband just had his 4th cancer surgery. I poured everything into it. My nephew.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
I really am. I don't even know what to say.
That's okay. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just. We haven't been sleeping. We haven't slept. We're staying in a hotel. We have nowhere to go. We don't know what we're doing. We were close neighbors, Buzz and Todd. His mom passed away and they took over the house. John just lost his wife that he adored, but was taking care of that house. She was a Superior Court judge. And Beverly and John, so much love. She was so incredible. And the house is gone.
I just can't believe they're all gone.
They're all gone. See, Debbie and us and Tina, our children went to school together from kindergarten. Our kids are in their 47 years old. And Debbie's 47-year-old son tragically passed away last August. Her oldest child. Her grief is so deep, I can't imagine.
My rental home in Florida was destroyed by Milton. Not looking for sympathy, just providing context of the LA residents. I did not sign up for a natural disaster, nor do I have any experience dealing with them. The initial loss of property is just the beginning. Newsom now needs to get FEMA coordinated because step 1 is access and assessment. After Milton, there were homes in the middle of the road, a road that have 5 feet of sand covered in some places and debris everywhere. My property was located in a place that was protected by the National Guard. No one was legally allowed to even see the home for 5 days. Everything's a mystery until you get to your home. How bad is it? Everything you have to do at this point is a hassle. Where do you stay? How do you rent a car? If I really want a pickup truck, why are there only electric cars available to rent? It's difficult to know where to begin. Okay, this stuff is random Twitter threads. It's my fault for even reading it. Okay, I wanted to just show you that video, but the thing I wanted to point to you, the thing that I want to point out is that like the crisis will get significantly worse for people who have been impacted, because now they have a secondary crisis of tremendous amount of paperwork and the rebuilding process. Okay. And in that process, there are going to be some real looters. A lot of people look to the situation and go, oh, looters are actually going to come down and take advantage of this chaotic situation to steal the valuable possessions of people who have been fortunate enough not to be super impacted by these wildfires, that have their entire homes be burned into the ground. But the real looters are actually the predatory insurance companies that are going to do everything in their power to not pay you out, even though you gave them money, knowing full well that if the unthinkable happened, that you would be covered, okay? The real looters are going to be real estate developers, private equity that come in and look to your most vulnerable moment and offer you like below market rates for the plot of land where your home used to remain, okay? Where the remains of your home are. They're going to try to seize as much of the real estate marketplace as fast as they possibly can, okay? They're going to lowball you. This also plays along with the insurance companies, because the insurance companies are working to maximize their profits. And in a crisis like this, they're, going to only be able to do that by refusing all of your claims. And in that weak and desperate moment, you are going to have to make a very difficult decision. Do I just sell off my land instead of the tumultuous rebuilding process? The other looters are going to be the landlords, because you hopefully have a little bit of money, right, on the side. Insurance will kick in to pay your rent, for example, if you're fortunate enough. And the people that own numerous properties know that. So they will raise the price of rent. Market conditions. Okay? That is the real looting that will take place. But that looting is invisible. That looting is only done through the normal process of capitalism, profit-seeking entities, faceless, lifeless corporations doing that looting. So instead of focusing on that looting, wood houses is crazy. Okay, what's really silly about this is that California is a earthquake region, okay? Wood houses are not crazy. Concrete also burns, chatter, just so you understand. And considering that it is a earthquake prone region, yes, wood houses are a more hardened defense against that sort of thing instead of concrete. That's the reason why these houses are built with wood. It's not because it's like they wanted to, you know, be caught they wanted to be lit on fire. My house wasn't burned down, but I've still been impacted by the fires. I work for LAUSD as a tutor, and before this, we had a month off work unpaid, and I really needed this next paycheck, but now school is canceled. My next paycheck has been pushed back even more. I can't imagine what I'd do if my house had burned down. Yeah. Anyway.
We brought up our kids there.
Victoria DeSantis finding her home of 20 years reduced to rubble. But in that debris, a miracle. Her engagement ring found by a firefighter.
Okay, you guys are saying concrete doesn't burn, okay? Concrete doesn't burn. Concrete doesn't burn. Okay, brother, you do understand that it's the second reason is that these areas are also at risk for earthquakes, okay? You understand that that's the major reason why the standards of building these houses with wood is built that way. It's not me doubling down, okay? I don't think you understand. People aren't just like stupid. People didn't just like build these houses with flex tape and wood so that they could create tinder boxes. There's a reason for why they do it. Chile and Japan are almost fully concrete brick with proper wooden houses that don't break, as you say, but it's a money issue. No, in Japan, they use wood as well. Concrete doesn't burn to ash, but it still burns. People are being annoying.
This is like apocalyptic.
Micah Kelly builds homes with fires in mind, including this one of the only houses left standing in a neighborhood that buckled under the flames. Even he was surprised.
For this even to withstand what happened here, if you looked at the devastation around here, is incredible. Like, I could take a blowtorch directly to the center of this, and this would not light on fire. It would just smoke.
He tells me he believes local authorities should have been more prepared for something like this.
This is a wake-up call for the city. It's only getting worse.
He's one of many residents voicing frustration with city officials as questions swirl over whether the city failed to supply enough water and deploy enough firefighters. And this morning, the long and painful journey to rebuild for so many Angelenos begins. The Community United Church was one of the many casualties of the Pacific Palisades fire. Built in 1929, the blaze burning it to the ground. Now, nearly a century later, its members promising this is not the end.
The church is not a building. The church is not a steeple, obviously. The church is not a resting place. The church is the people. So it's only the people that are the church. That's all that matters.
And so we can tell you right now, not very windy, at least in this part of Los Angeles, and that's a good thing. But we know that over the coming days, we are expecting winds to come back, and we know how quickly.
Civil engineer here, sorry, Hasanabi, the two reasons that NA houses are built with wood is profit and its availability. Concrete nowadays preform really well against fire, way better than wood, and earthquakes with a well-designed, flexible structure. Okay, I'll take your word for it.
One ember can spread, multiple embers can spread, leading to the kind of destruction that we saw here. Nothing to worry about right in this moment here, but certainly people across this area very much on edge after seeing all this.
Yeah, bracing for what's to come. Matt Rivers for us. Thank you so much.
The devastating wildfires in Southern California. Overnight, new evacuation orders were issued, this time in the Brentwood section of Los Angeles. Authorities now tell us 11 people have been killed, and that number is expected to rise. 37,000 acres of land have been scorched throughout Los Angeles County. That's equivalent to 10 square miles.
Hassan admitted to being wrong. What do you mean? Big titty goth. You're a 21-month subscriber. You probably heard me admit it. Yes. If there is a reasonable answer, and there are plenty of instances where I admit to being wrong. What are you talking about? You must ask yourself the question, why am I being annoying in this circumstance? Like, what would you rather have me do? Double down and be like, nah, you're wrong? You never admit to being wrong, lol. It's so weird because, like, these people say it. Clip it for DGG. These people say this, okay, Whereas everyone in here has seen me openly admit to being wrong when I'm faced with new information. Also, this is so sad. What a sad person you are, dude. He's still saying you never admitted. You just encountered me admitting it. Ugh. You were wrong about Israel and you never admitted it. See, this is the issue. I was not wrong about Israel at all. As a matter of fact, I was right about Israel 100%. It is you who refuses to see the reality. I'm baiting? Okay, well.
An area greater than the city of San Francisco. More than 12,000 homes, businesses, schools, and buildings destroyed, and 150,000 people still under mandatory evacuation orders.
There are 6 major fires burning throughout Los Angeles, the largest of which is the Palisades fire, burning in the
The best part about this whole conversation is we have it every time you admit you were wrong, every single time. I know. It's the best.
upscale Pacific Palisades neighborhood that straddles the Santa Monica Mountains and a strip of beach along the Pacific Ocean. That's where CBS's Maurice Dubois picks up our coverage. Maurice, we are so glad to have you. Good morning.
Michelle and Dana, good morning to you. The wind has somewhat died down here this morning, but the National Weather Service is still warning of elevated to critical fire risks for all of Los Angeles and Ventura counties through Wednesday. That's just days away. And as we speak right now, take a look at this. This is just 5 miles away from us, the Palisades fire burning in the distance. It is just hard to get your head around it. An eerie glow in the early morning sky. And now the health department has issued a local health emergency saying the wind and smoke has severely degraded the air quality. It's been 5 days here since 2 of the largest of these fires started, and this morning they're both less than 10% contained. Against that backdrop, questions are now being raised about how state and local officials responded to this unfolding disaster. And for more on that, let's go over to Tom Hansen in nearby Brentwood. Tom, good morning to you.
Hey, Maurice, good morning to you. Well, it's a very active scene behind me. You can see the flames are continuing to rage. And look, you can even see that they are carrying out water drops, which is about to happen right now, where they're going to drop gallons of water onto some of these embers in the hillside. There we go. There it goes right there to try to put out these flames. It really just highlights what a challenge these firefighters are up against. And as these flames rage, so too do the questions from residents, millions of which got false alarms when there weren't actually in any danger. Also, the other question that is growing this morning is whether or not firefighters were well equipped enough to get a handle on the blaze when the flames began.
At night, the hills above West Los Angeles still look like a hellscape. The winds driving the Palisade fire lulled enough for firefighters to use water-dropping helicopters. By day, the devastation is clear. Hundreds of homes in the Pacific Palisade neighborhood are little more than rubble and ashes.
So I came home today, and now it looks like we definitely have to go again, so I'm going.
Do you know where you're headed right now?
Yeah, I do. I have a pool house in Coldwater Canyon, and I hope it doesn't get all the way over there.
To the east, the Eaton fire ravaged the Altadena neighborhood. Even the homes left standing are uninhabitable.
Damage is smoke damage. It's not livable.
4 other fires still burning throughout Los Angeles County.
We will not stop until the fires are fully contained.
But while firefighters try to get the upper hand, some residents and officials are pointing fingers.
It's just devastating. We need more help here on the ground.
Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley has said her department has been hampered by a lack of resources.
Even with an additional 100 engines, I tell you, we were not going to catch that fire. But with that being said, let me be clear. The $17 million budget cut and the elimination of our civilian positions like our mechanics did and has and will continue to severely impact our ability to repair our apparatus.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is calling for an investigation into why some hydrants in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood ran dry at the height of the fire and why a 117 million gallon reservoir was out of service. Meanwhile, some residents want to know why 10 million Californians received false emergency evacuation warnings. CBS News' Jonathan Vigliotti posed the question to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
You have millions of people here who get these alerts. They are ignoring them. There is a real threat here. What is your message to your constituents who are losing faith?
I want the situation under control.
While so much has been lost in less than a week, there are glimmers of hope.
captured in these images of a stranded dog and its rescue, prompting an outpouring of support. Max was taken in by a local dog rescue, which has since received a flood of donations for all of its residents.
Thank you, Whittier. Thank you, Los Angeles. The way the city of Los Angeles is coming together to help each other, it's overwhelming.
And for the people here, help is on the way as well. There are dozens of food, clothing, and supply drives happening all throughout the weekend across LA. Maurice.
Okay, Tom Hansen in Brentwood, thanks so much.
These fires.
All right, we're going to talk about the fire hydrant water supply.
Impacting so many communities across Southern California, wiping out multi-million-dollar homes in the Pacific Palisades and Malibu, and now growing questions about water supply issues firefighters had to deal with. ABC's Jacqueline Lee joins us now from Malibu. Jacqueline, good morning.
Well, good morning. There is destruction everywhere we look. We are currently standing in a shopping center here in Malibu where there used to be a bunch of small businesses, but as you can see, they are gone. The only thing standing is a staircase. There's a lot of ash, debris, and some framing left behind. And what you can see is we are across the street from the Pacific Ocean, from Pacific Coast Highway, and that place is famous for just the sheer amount of luxury beachfront properties. That is no longer there. It is wiped from the map. And what that shows us is this Palisades fire burned so quickly to the south that the only thing stopping it was the Pacific Ocean. Now, this morning, we are learning more about water supply issues. A local fire captain telling ABC News that when a structure with a sprinkler system burns down, that water from that system continues to flow, that impacting the water supply and losing pressure for those firefighters fighting these fires here in Los Angeles. In addition, we're learning that a nearby 117 million gallon reservoir, it was taken offline for repairs before the fires, a brush fire burning close to that facility. Governor Newsom is demanding an investigation into the water issues. We also know the LA Fire Commission sent a report by the fire chief to Mayor Karen Bass just weeks ago, raising the alarm about cuts to the fire department's budget. There are, of course, a lot more questions than answers this morning. And coming up in the next half hour, I'll have more details about the human.
What does percentage containment refer to? The perimeter of the fire or the total put out? I think it's the like the perimeter, right? I don't know.
Toll of these devastating fires. Rhiannon.
All right, Jacqueline Lee, thank you. And a thank you to all the reporters bringing us these.
Containment is a measure of the amount of line around the wildfire. For example, if officials state that the fire is 30% contained, that means barriers have been placed around 30% of its perimeter. It's as much as a measure of linear footage as it is confidence. Yeah. So, for example, in the Pasadena fires, like not Pasadena, sorry, in the Pacific Palisades fire, for the past couple of days, they said it was 0% contained. And that's because wind conditions was making it impossible to establish a stopping point for the fire where they're just consistently tackling the edges and to contain it within that area. It doesn't mean that the fire stops, even if it's like contained by, 10%, 30%, whatever. It just simply means that they are able to stop it at certain areas.
These devastating images, our hearts just break for everyone impacted. Let's get over to the forecast now. More Santa Ana winds are headed to California this week. Samara Theodore is here with that. Samara, Mother Nature not giving us any relief.
No, Rhiannon, but this morning is crucial to firefighters as the winds have gone down. It's their time to make headway because by this afternoon into this evening, those winds are going to pick back up. So we're getting that classic setup back in play, winds increasing again tonight. This is going to lead to that critical fire risk from Malibu and Simi Valley into San Fernando, Riverside, Anaheim, Ontario. Wind gusts could be as high as 65 miles per hour. Again, we could be in for a relative humidity between 10 to 20%. And it's not just the fires, it's also that smoke coming along with the fires here. We have that apocalyptic low-level smoke headed down into Santa Monica, reducing air quality even as far south as Redondo Beach. Gio?
Let's hope that they can contain more of those fires before those winds move in. All right, Samara, thank you so much.
All right, here's the Wall Street Journal. LA fires. Why did the fire hydrants run dry? Some of the major questions we have here in front of us is why did the fire hydrants run dry? That's number one. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has already started the process of conducting an internal investigation as to why this happened. But outside of that, The other question is, why are there no controlled burns? Could the controlled burns actually stop the LA fires? And why are there no controlled burns? Is it bureaucratic red tape, or are there some serious consequences? Do they do controlled burns in California? Okay.
When fire hydrants ran dry in the Pacific Palisades, it sparked a wave of criticism and even misinformation.
Because Karen Bass didn't fill the reservoirs. So all the fire reservoirs were not, so the fire trucks are there, they couldn't pump water.
They cut the water off.
They don't have water.
Surveys show LA did have water, but amid widespread frustration and a report that a local reservoir in the Palisades was offline and empty due to repairs, California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a review of Los Angeles water and power. Here's how the water supply system works and what we know about why hydrants ran out of water at the height of the Palisades fire. About 2/3 of LA County's water comes from sources outside of LA. And because LA is surrounded by mountains and hills, much of that water has to be pushed up to higher elevations.
Well, water is heavy, relatively speaking, and so it takes energy to pump it upstream.
Eric Porce, director of the California Institute for Water Resources, says you can think of the system sort of like a tree with interconnected branches. There are big trunk mains that move water from a source, like a water treatment plant or a reservoir, and carry it to smaller distribution mains, which split off from the trunk. From there, the water is moved through even smaller pipes or lateral.
Yeah, they do a lot more controlled burns in Northern California than they do in Southern California. It's a lot more difficult to get controlled burns kickstarted in Southern California. We'll dive into that in a little bit, okay? And I'll tell you why it's a issue.
Water to homes, businesses, and fire hydrants. In some areas, tanks and reservoirs are placed throughout the system to help maintain pressure, because pressure is what pushes water into all of the nodes. But during the LA wildfires, officials said intense demand overwhelmed the system, which drained several tanks and meant that there wasn't enough pressure to push water to hydrants up in the Palisades.
So I want to make sure that you understand there's water in the trunk line. It just cannot get off the hill because we cannot fill it fast enough.
Officials say there wasn't a lack of water in LA, and data shows that major California reservoirs were at or above historic averages when the fires broke out. But in a letter to LA officials, Newsom called the ongoing reports of the loss of water pressure.
It seems like it is because of the. It seems like it's not only like a water pressure issue, but it seems like it's because they shut off electricity to certain pumps, and without pumps, you can't feed additional water to areas of need.
To some local hydrants during the fires, and the reported unavailability of water supplies from the Santa Ynez Reservoir deeply troubling. However, a former city official told the LA Times that given the severity of the fires, the area still would have experienced serious drops in pressure even with that reservoir.
Those distribution systems aren't really designed to manage wildfire, especially wildfire that was spreading at this rate.
Meanwhile, state officials are pushing back against claims that environmental policies caused LA to have water problems, as some blamed Newsom and the state's efforts to protect species like the Delta smeltfish by restricting the flow of some water to Southern California.
You're just letting water run into the Pacific?
Dude, I genuinely despise right-wing weirdos. I hate them so much. I can't. Like, they're so unimaginably annoying and so gross. It's just, at this point, it's like pure evil, where they're so hyper focused on a nefarious reason as to why they want to redirect natural waterways into agricultural output. Like, that is the ultimate goal that they have. They do not care about the natural habitat and the delicate ecosystem. They do not even care about having enough water to combat these wildfires or anything like that. They simply want more water for agricultural output. Okay? And they're using this as an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. On the one hand, you get to talk about environmentally conscious libtards who don't know anything about anything. Look how stupid they are. And number two, you get to make a case for how you must redirect more of the natural waterways into agriculture. Okay?
Because of what? A fish that no one's heard of? Does anybody care about the smelt fish?
Incoming President Trump posted he wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid.
So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job.
What do you say to the criticism that this state has mismanaged water supplies?
I think the facts speak for themselves. The fact that there is water in reservoirs beyond what is average traditionally for this time of year means that we are moving water when it is available. And I want to be very, very clear. The way that we are moving water and have been moving water and conditions that we're seeing in Southern California are
virtually every single authority on this has basically stated that California has above average water supply, despite the historically dry rain season that we've seen. Like in the reservoirs, there is above average water supply across the board. Opening up additional waterways or damming existing natural waterways to redirect water down to Southern California has been a long-term Trump agenda item. Okay? They want this specifically for additional agricultural output. They don't care about the devastating impact that it will have on the natural habitat. It's not just about smelt, okay? It's not just about like protecting smelt. It's about ruining a delicate ecosystem, specifically so you can have more green golf courses and more agricultural business, okay? As far as I understand, in 2019, Donald Trump actually tried to push for here. Trump claimed Newsom refused to sign a water restoration declaration that he said he would have directed millions of gallons of water to areas now burning, alleging he prioritized a small fish called smelt over residents. In response, Newsom's office said there's no such document as the water restoration declaration. That's pure fiction. Trump appeared to reference his administration's 2019 proposal to redirect water from the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta to Central Valley farms and Southern California urban areas. I want to repeat this again. He wants to redirect the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta to Central Valley farms and SoCal urban areas. California officials and environmentalists successfully sued to challenge it in part because they argued that the rules would endanger wildlife in the Delta, including the smeltfish. In December, President Biden's administration, in cooperation with Newsom, endorsed new regulations they said will allow more water to be pulled from the Delta to Southern California while also protecting local wildlife. An official who helps oversee Southern California's water supply refuted Trump's claim that these proposed changes could have mitigated the wildfires. Mark Gold, the water scarcity director for the Natural Resources Defense Council and member of the Metropolitan Water District Board that provides water to 19 million people in Southern California, told CBS News, the issues have nothing to do with what amount of water we have stored within the region. The Metropolitan Water District has a record amount of water stored at this time. Isn't the streaming wars? What? Southern California has ample water supply after previous years of decent rains, Gold said, but the lack of rain in the region in recent months dried out the vegetation. Okay? Something Trump's proposal wouldn't have helped with. What happened has nothing to do with protecting the Bay Delta and how water is being managed there. Then they talk about the no water in the fire hydrants. Los Angeles officials face fierce criticism after some fire hydrants ran dry in parts of the Pacific Palisades overnight from Tuesday into Wednesday. Janice Quinones, chief executive and chief engineer of the LA Department of Water and Power, said at a Wednesday press conference that all 1 million gallon water tanks in the area ran dry by 3 a.m., reducing water pressure for fire hydrants at higher elevations. Quinones said the tanks, which supply pressure from the hydrants in the hilly Palisades, couldn't refill fast enough as firefighting efforts drained water faster than the main trunk line could supply it. LA Fire Department Captain Eric Scott said that the LA DWP proactively filled all available water storage tanks before the fires began. It followed some widely shared claims on social media that officials had refused or failed to fill all the tanks. Mark Pestrella, director of the LA County Department of Public Works, said that the municipal water systems for the impacted areas were overworked, partly because firefighters were unable to use air support due to high winds and poor visibility. This was at nighttime. It is the worst possible way that this could have gone down. Okay? They could not use aerial support to use helicopters and planes as well as they wanted to try to stop some of the wildfires that were ravaging. I repeat once again, you cannot combat a water hurricane. I mean, not a water hurricane. Sorry, a fire tornado with fire hydrants. Okay, you can't do that, especially when you got 50 to 80 mile winds carrying embers everywhere. It was a fire cane. The municipal water systems that service our homes and businesses continue to work effectively. However, they are not designed to fight wildfires. That's it. A firefight with multiple fire hydrants drawing water from the system for several hours is unsustainable. This is a known fact. In a statement, Newsom said he was calling for an independent investigation into the loss of water pressure for local fire hydrants and the reported unavailability of water supplies from the Santa Ynez Reservoir. The Santa Ynez Reservoir, a 117 million gallon water resource near the Pacific Palisades, was out of use for repairs when fires tore through Los Angeles neighborhood this week. Another thing that Trump claimed was that President Biden in a social media post claiming the current administration is leaving him with no money in FEMA. FEMA's disaster relief fund was rapidly dwindling last October after Hurricane Helene and a series of major disasters, but Biden signed a bill in December that added $29 billion to the fund. On Wednesday, the agency told CNN that they approximately had $27 billion left in the disaster relief fund. In a time of need, when there is a tremendous amount of pain, when there's so much suffering happening, right-wingers look to the issue and go, how can we use this to manipulate the public attitude? How can we use this crisis to basically get people tuned up with disinformation? Unlimited amounts of disinformation. It is crazy. NorCal resident here. This has been an issue for a long time. NorCal's always conserved water better than SoCal. 10 years ago when there was a drought, it was the same story. Hasanabi is correct in his assessment of the water issue. This is purely LA County and SoCal not managing themselves effectively, and right-wingers are taking advantage of that mismanagement just to fuck up the ecosystem so their golf course can be green. It is shocking to me that people can be so openly ruthless and so awful that they could just turn around and look at, entire cities being eviscerated by fire and go, how can we present this in the worst way possible through misinformation that we can get people tuned up and primed to advocate to make sure that there's more irrigation, more mismanagement of water, so that we can have golf courses and more agribusiness in the region. That is legitimately gross. I don't know how else to describe it other than just it's gross.
Line of cars it is far. I had to stop walking. I had to return back to the truck because I couldn't get that far away from it. So that just speaks to how anxious people are to get to their homes, to check on things, to get things that they need. I spoke with one man who was here trying to get his son's medication, and that was earlier. Those were the only people they were letting in via escort. When that escort was here, were those to get medication or something important like that. Earlier, when we were on, you might have seen me speak with a woman who was also trying to do the same thing and just check on her home of 20 years. She's lived in this area 40 years, and just concerned for her home and for the community around her. So that's the situation out here. Again, it is moving, albeit very, very slowly, as people try to go back and check on their homes and their property.
Zach, I've noticed 2 people had to be turned around and left the area. What's the litmus test for being able to go in? You wait all that way and then you're turned away. What's the litmus test to be allowed in?
Okay, so here's how it's working. So they're looking, let me have you, Alex, show that second.
They're checking people's IDs to see if they have identification or any sort of paperwork that proves that they're from the region, because they're terrified of looters actually running into the area to steal stuff.
On camera, that'd be furthest to the left. And so they're looking at driver's license, trying to see where people are and then group them in, like I was saying earlier, to get people going at the same time in one area.
They're literally going to turn away people that live in this area if their driver's licenses are, if their driver's licenses don't show that they're from the area, just so you understand.
And like this media truck coming in right now has been through, so they might recognize them and let them through. But the first time you come in here as a member of the media, or maybe anybody else too, they are looking at our press badges very closely. They looked at our press badge, and then they asked to see our driver's license. And let me tell you, they were looking at our names. They were looking closely at our pictures to let us in. And so you see that guy, he's been in here before, so they kind of know him already. And I just say that too, as I was saying yesterday and earlier today, that they're being very serious about who they are letting in, because we know that the arrests have been made for people not following the curfew, or of course for people who are looting, which has been a major concern of so many of the residents that I've been speaking with. And it's also been the reason that so many people said that they would or have stayed back behind in their houses too, because they were concerned about looting. And so you just have to think, imagine somebody staying behind because they're concerned about looters, and then the unthinkable happens. A fire comes down and that their life is at risk now because they're afraid of somebody taking advantage of this situation. But to those people, I am telling you that it is a very hardened perimeter around here. We can't guarantee that, your home won't be looted, but they are taking this very seriously from what we can see here on the ground. And for us to even come in, we have a big, huge news truck. We're, to me at least, very obvious media just by our vehicle, but they still checked our badges and our identification. And we had no problem showing that because we know how serious the situation is and how concerned residents are about looters or anything else going on around their property. Whether it's standing or not, these residents are concerned, and they're also very anxious to get in. Now this
Bro, I'm not kidding when I say this is disorder and more. This is more of a clear indication that we are at the verge of societal collapse. A normal, functioning, civilized society would not have these issues. You only have these fears, okay, when there is an unimaginable amount of wealth inequality, where people are so starving and so desperate that they're literally doing the most inhumane thing you can do, taking advantage of a natural disaster like this. And I also personally think that they're greatly overemphasizing the dangers of looting in an effort to do propaganda, in an effort to show that the National Guard and the police are actually valuable resources. Meanwhile, you got the actual valuable resources doing their very best to put out these fires, working around the clock. It's crazy. A disaster is natural to an extent. Wildfires are a natural disaster, chatter. That's crazy. Like, I think that's the other issue here with fires. People always immediately think of like arson and structural fires, not realizing that no, wildfires are a natural disaster in the same way that a hurricane is. There are methods of prevention, but you can't 100% eradicate it. If that was the case, Australia would never have a wildfire season. Okay? Like if that was the case, there wouldn't be a wildfire season. You can harden your infrastructure ahead of time to try and ensure to make sure that you max out on defenses to ensure that the damage is as marginal as possible. But yeah, obviously wildfires are still a natural disaster. Black residents whose homes have been burnt down are being detained and harassed by the LAPD in Altadena. Yeah, I heard about this as well. Hasanabi, you can say this is a natural disaster. We're also seeing global warming is increasing their occurrences and severity. People are trying to outwoke you. No, I think people don't understand. I think because most of the fire that you see or experience in normal conditions is just like a structural fire, you know what I mean? Like a gas leak or something. So they just don't think that it's like a natural disaster. It's understandable. They don't think about it like in the same way that they do about an earthquake or a hurricane. That's what it is. Because if you don't live in an area, where there are wildfire seasons, it's pretty hard to comprehend. The only thing you see is an electrical fire, a structural fire, a gas leak, things of that nature. Not realizing that, like, no, there is, this is a natural disaster.
Did speak with, they told me that the wind is actually working in their favor right now, pushing those flames away from structures as opposed to toward them. So they are using the elements to their advantage. Something else that you couldn't see on the ground, those ground attacks, there are dozer lines that are being created by CAL FIRE crews right now. In addition to that, we have the LA Department of Power and Water monitoring those transmissions lines along there. They said they are securing them, making sure that if flames get close enough, they can de-energize them before it poses an additional risk. Now, along here on Skirball Center Drive, there are more and more people that are coming up to take pictures, to take video, because this is an image that you just haven't seen. I want to introduce you right now to Nicholas, who tells me he lives nearby. We also have Jacob joining us. Now, Nicholas, Jacob, you said you live nearby. What brought you out here today?
I mean, as you can see right here, Milken Community High School. This is the high school I grew up at. If I can take this.
Oh, I'll hold it for you.
Perfect. This is the school my sister's at right now. It's just truly unbelievable. It's unfathomable right now. I'm just scared. You know, I was just at Bel Air Crest helping my friend evacuate, and I just drove by, and I'm just in total shock. I'm in disbelief right now.
I think I bawled there.
You were telling me that
last
night you were helping people evacuate?
Yes, last night my friend lives right over this yellow tape right here. Me and Jacob, we were just running and just trying to do everything we could to help our friend. It's just so sad. I mean, all we can do right now is pray for our firefighters, and just pray for everyone right now. I mean,
Jacob, I want to talk to you because you were telling me just about watching, neighbors helping neighbors. I know I met someone earlier who said they were helping people who may have been medically challenged, who had oxygen tanks get into their car. Tell me what you saw last night.
Honestly, I just saw a lot of people who were already done evacuating, helping out their neighbors, no matter what it was. At the end of the day, nobody wants to see anyone else's house or their belongings burned down, and I think it was a beautiful thing seeing neighbors go out of their way to help people that honestly maybe they've never even spoken to. You live next to someone and you don't always talk to them, but when hard times come, everyone helps out, and especially around here, I went to elementary school just right over there, also at Stephen S. Wise, and high school here, and the community around here, they love to lend a hand, and it's a very nice thing to see.
I saw nothing but constant looting.
When it comes to just this imagery right there, have you seen anything like this? Have you seen a fire like this before?
No, I have not. During our high school time, there were multiple fires. School got canceled, but this is something I don't even know. It's insane. This is like out of the Bible. It's quite shocking, and I hope it can come to an end very fast.
When it comes to people who are trying to get through, there is a hard closure. They are being turned away. Just being down here right now, what do you want to tell people at home just about the severity, the magnitude of this right now?
Listen, I spent hours sitting at my TV, watching it start at the Palisades, and just watching it grow. And it's a different feeling when you're actually here, when you're miles away from it, when you're staring at it, you're watching the smoke grow. It's unexplainable. It's a feeling that I really hope you don't need to feel in your life, but sitting behind the screen compared to just standing here with you right now, and honestly, God bless you for doing this and showing people what is happening right now. It's just a different feeling. All I can say is just pray for the firefighters. For the families, there's so many people involved in this that we just need to try helping. We've been trying to help, donating, doing everything we can. It's not going to stop anytime soon. We really hope it will. But in the meantime, just spread the word. This is severe. This is something we've never seen before. I know it's been brought up.
Why are you guys saying God maxing, bro? They're in a disaster. Y'all are so crazy. So strange to just look at people who are trying to survive in a disaster and being like, oh, God, why is he not saying, oh, my science? Who cares, man? Why are y'all being so annoying? Be normal, please. Oh, my Lord. Why are they not science maxing? Why are they God maxing in this circumstance, in this crisis? Y'all are so dumb, I swear to God.
Around access to that water, it has nothing to do with protected fish species under the law.
Carla Namath and other California officials say one of the biggest issues was actually wind.
The fire is being fueled by...
They get it from you. That's my favorite type of chatter, who in the process of me course correcting will say, you're not course correcting. How many times have I had this conversation?
Combination of strong winds and surrounding topography, which is making it extremely challenging.
Sending thoughts and null hypotheses to those affected. Yeah. Sending thoughts and logical conclusions. Sending thoughts and logic to those affected. All my science.
For our personnel that are assigned to this incident.
Is there anything California or LA officials could have done better to mitigate the threat of these fires?
There will be lots of opportunity after this event to understand what happened, and we will learn from that, and especially in the context of climate, and we will adjust and move forward. I think it's really important for folks to understand that a fire suppression strategy for a wildland fire is not dealt with localized community fire hydrants. It's just not the right scale.
High alert. High alert.
All right, there it is. Let's talk about the real issues, okay? Reporter talking to enslaved firefighters. Today I was granted access to speak to the incarcerated firefighters. They told me they hadn't showered in 5 days. They were not provided regularly meals. They were working 24 hours in a row. They feel underappreciated and underpaid. We'll talk to them as well. They also said they all wanted to be there and that they see work as an important way to give back to the community. These fires exist in the context of all fires that came before. I think that's so overlooked. It's not like the fire fell out of a coconut tree, you know? No, it didn't. It fell out of a eucalyptus tree, though. Anyway, when people say thoughts and prayers when a shooting happens, isn't that cringe? Did you just... American brain, dude. I'm not even going to fault you for this, chatter. Okay? I'm not going to fault you for this. There is a difference between natural disasters and gun violence. Gun violence is not a natural disaster, no matter how much Americans act like it is. There is no other country on this planet where people go, oh, that's a naturally occurring phenomena, gun violence. Okay? That's why one is cringe, because it's a very preventable issue, whereas the other, no matter how much you try to prevent it, can still end up devastating an entire region, because overcoming nature is quite difficult. There are actual actions that one can take to prevent these things, including fires. Yes, you cannot totally prevent the fires, but you can protect those who are more economically vulnerable. Oh my God. No, there is... The reason why it's cringe when people say thoughts and prayers after gun violence is specifically because it is not a natural disaster. Okay? There is no way that you can 100%... Chatters, unless you have a wind machine that I am oblivious to, unless you know that there is like some kind of weather wind machine that I was just unaware of, you cannot combat 80 to 100 mile winds. Virtually every single professional that works in dealing with the harm mitigation has said as much. We used it to hit Florida. Yeah, that's true. We did use weather machines. One might even say that this is a weather machine turned on itself. Never heard of the HARP before, huh? And you call yourself a political commentator. That's right. Seems like this idiot is oblivious. What is this? Call me a conspiracy theorist, but there is no way that 8 different fires starting within a period of 48 hours in LA is due to climate change. Yeah. Laughing at clown world during the collapse of the Western society. Stop geoengineering. Stop mRNA. Reject woke ideology. No wars. Conspiracy realist. Coincidence analyzer.
Theorist, but there is no way that 8 different fires.
You know she is huffing on that raw milk. You know she is drinking that unpasteurized Garbo right now, okay?
Starting within a period of 48 hours in LA is due to climate change. You want to tell me that insurance companies canceling people's policies in these areas over the past few months, officials cutting firefighting funding, emptying water reservoirs, and being more concerned?
I love conspiracy theorists because they look at the crisis caused by constant corner cutting, profit seeking, budget reductions, and austerity due to capitalism. Okay? And they just go, there's got to be something out there. There's got to be a real crazy, not systemic factor at play here. Okay? Let me keep drinking my raw milk. I'm sure I'll find the answers there. It's always so funny. It's like they are so goddamn close. They are so close to kind of recognizing what's going on. It's a joke. She is fun. Check her interviews and podcasts. You think this person is joking? They have a homesteading account. They're selling healing powers of tallow.
After the
letting the people of Hawaii, North Carolina, and now LA rot in these post-apocalyptic scenes while they funnel away our tax dollars to foreign countries. Look at the milk stain on her chin. It's definitely a joke. I don't think she's joking. I don't think 48,000 people clicked on the like on this tweet because they were like, haha, this is a funny joke. I don't think she's joking at all.
About sending aid to another country is just coincidence? Okay. Call me.
The fires. North Carolina, after the floods, supposedly received roughly $2 billion for disaster recovery. And now we have LA with Joe pledging 100% rebuild costs, just like he did with North Carolina. He even said with North Carolina, I'm here to say the United States, the nation, has your back. We're not leaving until you're back on your feet completely. So how is that going for the people of Hawaii or North Carolina? Because they are not back up on their feet. They even had to pay property taxes on properties that don't exist anymore, and they are still living in tents. Is it possible that these events are just part of a massive land grab for things like 15-minute smart cities?
The American century of humiliation is upon us. It's a self-inflicted wound. The American century of domination is over before the century even ends. Okay? We couldn't make it into the 40s. We could not have 100 years of pure domination. It's done. The American century of humiliation is upon us, even though we are the hegemon. This is a self-inflicted wound born out of profit-seeking parasitic forces that have consistently undermined education, that have destroyed this country. Wow. The Burger Reich is shitting and farting itself to death. It's so bad. That fake journalist who went to the empty reservoir earlier and just asked questions and did not answer any is basically just doing TikTok brain like this girl here, but just a little bit more official. Yeah.
And you may be thinking that $2 billion is a lot for disaster recovery, but just a few weeks ago, Joe pledged almost $6 billion to be sent to here, bringing the total amount of aid sent to here around $175 billion that we know of. And you still think your elected officials care about you? Okay.
I like that chatters were convinced that this person is so insane that it must be satire. That's cool. Ay. All right, we're going to get to the looting in a second. Let's
turn it back on. So it was almost inevitable.
I got to go pee real quick
this
again.
was going to occur. We always need to have boots in the ground. The idea that they don't have boots in the ground and some of this terrain is inaccessible, they need to get firefighters or crew members in there separating the burn from the unburned. So some of the feeds will show the aircraft doing outstanding jobs as far as the helicopters making pinpoint drops, or some of the fixed aircraft making retardant drops, which is great. But at some given point, you still need to get boots in the ground to separate the burn from the unburned to get containment lines in.
Well, that is a story we've been telling, actually, for all these days, that there just aren't enough resources to go around. And it's just extraordinary, Daryl, when you consider how many fires are burning. And while there might be one that's drawing all the attention, you certainly cannot let the others just go. So there are plenty of people, plenty of fire officials and professionals that are handling all those other fires. And we kept seeing so many little spot fires pop up, little vegetarian
fires.
Yeah, not vegetarian fires.
But what we have seen this morning, Chief, is the air power has really been extraordinary. We saw one home burn, but talk about the value of those resources and how important they are.
Yeah, I think that today you can see the significant value and investment that we've made at the state, local, and federal level as it relates to aircraft, because you have aircraft from all three entities. And you can see the impact that it's having today because the aircraft are able to fly. The helicopters have water sources where they can quickly pick up water.
One of the coolest military-sponsored projects with the federal government is the utilization of bomb droppers. I think it's called MAFS. It's so sick. MAFS C-130. Okay, it literally they changed their payload from actual bombs into fire retardant material. MAFS equipped with C-130s joined the fight against raging Los Angeles fires. A C-130 MAFS 9 from Nevada Air National Guard's 152nd Airlift Wing performs a water drop. They either do water drops or they just straight up deploy a payload with like water in it. Yeah. Modular Airborne Firefighting System is what it's called. Where they take C-130s and they just bomb the fire. U.S. Northcom has activated 8 C-130 aircraft equipped with MAFs to relocate to the Channel Islands in Southern California to support firefighting efforts in the LA area. Some will be operational on January 10th. All will be ready by January 12th. Anyway, C-130s are awesome because they can fly slow while being so damn big, which means they can spray more ground. Yeah, that is the appropriate usage of military equipment. Okay. MAFS was instituted in 1971 as a collaborative effort between the U.S. Forest Service and the Department of Defense to produce equipment, training, and operational procedures to integrate military air tankers into a national firefighting response, Northcom said. The U.S. Air Force explains that MAFS unit can fit inside C-130 airplanes is installed without any structural modification, and within 2 hours, the MAFS equipment has a jet blower type nozzle on the rear left side near the bay doors. The carriage unit consists of a cylindrical tank, pumps, and other electronic control, and operation units that are loaded by Air Force loadmasters through the rear ramp. Here's a video of it. Yo, I used to subcontract these parts of the C-130, but you convinced me to quit, and now I'm a union organizer with AFD. Thanks, dude. I am broke, though, now. Like, really broke. Lol. Okay, I'm sorry. The system can discharge a fire retardant load of 3,000 gallons, which is 11,356 liters for the Euro cucks in the chat, in less than 5 seconds through a discharge tube located in place on the left rear paratroop doors of the aircraft. Released from an altitude about 150 feet, the retardant covers an area 1/4 of a mile long and 60 feet wide, with the plane returning to an air tanker base to be refilled again and airborne in less than 20 minutes. Interestingly, this very capability that the CL-415 Super Scooper seaplanes offer by landing on a large water body to refill their tanks to 7,000 liters, which is 1,850 U.S. gallons in Freedom units of water in just 14 seconds to quickly return to attack the fire. Other fixed-wing aircraft cannot execute continuous drops like the CL-415 and thus need to land back at an airport to refill. California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, also provided more details about how MAFs will be deployed. Unlike CAL FIRE air tankers, MAFs aircraft are not initial attack qualified and require an aerial supervision module lead plane in order to conduct drops, says the agency. This typically limits their use to established extended attack incidents, which help keep CAL FIRE and other IA air tankers available to be quickly dispatched to new fires. MAFS unit's retardant is made up of 80 to 85% water, 10 to 15% ammonium sulfate, a gelling agent, and red coloring. The red in the retardant acts as a color code, helping pilots see where they have dropped previous loads. The retardant itself disperses as mist, preventing damage to buildings. The MAFS crews participate in recurring annual training, with each unit required to have 5 certified personnel for the role. It's sick. Yeah, you need to use your tactical deployment speak. I mean, they are. Here's a MAFS unit operational in the state of California, dropping flame retardant liquid, deploying flame retardant liquid, 8,000 gallons worth. Sir, if it's white, it's probably just water. C-130 aircraft fighting fire seen in the CNN video at 4:15.
Fern.
Dude, it's sick. Look.
Some other smoke trails as well. So they are trying to save this community. That is where the battle has been joined. A lot of air assets, trucks on the ground, fixed-wing aircraft like this.
There it is. Sir, yes, sir.
Wow.
We have tactically deployed the flame retardant matter, sir.
It's extraordinary to be standing here.
C-130s is going to be tactically making a landing.
And feel the power of that aircraft go right over you and watch it just swoop down so low. It is rare in life you see an aircraft swooping that close to houses. We watched 3 choppers drop their...
Is it just me or is that plane just looking fine as hell? I agree. What? It must feel so good for a Vietnam era plane to drop chemicals on forests. At least this one is to save lives for once. You know what I mean? It still gets to do what it loves to do. Still gets to do what it was tasked to do, dropping chemicals on a forest. But this time it's to save lives rather than, melt Vietnamese villagers. Okay. before we get to, I guess we can talk about the looting now as well here.
For looters out here, they have already arrested nearly 24 people inside evacuation areas. The National Guard has been brought in to bolster security, and some people have gone back home to try to defend what they have left. Chris Van Cleef has that from Altadena.
The sense of loss in Altadena is hard to describe. Destruction is everywhere. And then this island of 6 seemingly untouched homes saved by Pete Villani, who stayed behind to fight back the massive firestorm.
These are all my friends. These are all, you know.
Once again, there's like 18 million people, and they've arrested, not charged, not convicted, just simply arrested under the suspicion of looting, 20 people. They say nearly 24 because the number is 20 so far. Okay? 20.
We're a family here. I love my neighbors. And it's like, you feel guilty because I survived. I couldn't save the whole block.
But even as he worked to put out hotspots, another threat emerged: looters. He says he and a neighbor have chased off 2 groups attempting to break into the homes still standing.
What kind of person, what kind of human being would take advantage of somebody at that point? It's just like, I don't even want to say what I would do, but it's shocking.
Did you worry about your safety when you confronted the folks trying to get in that house?
No, I will say this. It would have been a bad day for them to do anything.
Do you feel like you're defending your neighborhood now?
Yep. That's why I'm here. This is why I stayed.
He's still standing watch even as the National Guard's armored vehicles are blocking evacuated neighborhoods and police are ramping up patrols.
Looting has zero tolerance. Looting or exploiting in the disaster areas will not be tolerated. Anybody caught looting or committing crimes in the affected area.
Like, I hope everybody understands, like, looting in a situation like this is completely unacceptable, okay? It is psychotic. Make no mistake, okay? Yeah, you have to be a real freak in dire circumstances to just be like, oh yeah, time for some free stuff. I'm gonna put my life at risk to go into smoldering ashes in these neighborhoods to secure, like, jewelry or, I don't know, like a TV or something. Okay, it is completely unacceptable. Everybody understands this. My point on this, my point when I cover this stuff is not necessarily to say looting is good, you should let it happen, even though many right-wingers will hear what I'm saying and immediately say, look at Hassan, he loves theft. Okay? My point is that the media greatly overemphasizes these stories for 2 reasons. One, because it is a panic narrative of crime that people are predisposed with, that people love laser focusing on. If it bleeds, it leads. And the other reason why they do it is because this justifies the additional police presence. That way you don't think about why we're giving so much money to the cops and taking away money from firefighters. Even in a time when there is a massive wildfire, the media will always maintain this posture. Okay? Does the media portray anti-looting propaganda during hurricanes? Of course they do. Of course they do. Yes, they do this after every natural disaster. It's additionally crazy to do it after a wildfire, though, because, like, the fires are still going, it's still blazing through half of these neighborhoods when they're, like, it didn't, bro. The Pacific Palisades was still on fire when the new district attorney went to his sister's destroyed house in the Pacific Palisades to cut a video talking about how he's gonna kill looters. It's like, bro, you're standing in front of your sister's burned down house, and that's what you got on your mind. You're like, oh, if you try to come here to my sister's burned down house, like, I'll freaking kill you. Looting narratives go crazy. They're protecting us from imaginary looters. Do you remember the news during Katrina? Yeah. Katrina was particularly deadly because people did actually, quote unquote, take matters in their own hands, and they just started shooting random black people under the suspicion that they were looting. Okay? Luckily, it hasn't gotten to that degree here in California, Los Angeles. Woke California hasn't started doing that yet. But of course, the more people hit these like looter lines, the more people panic about this sort of thing, the higher the likelihood that you could potentially go to jail or be detained or arrested for the crime of trying to go back to your house while also being a black person or while also being a brown person or, not looking the neighborhood profile, you know? Yeah. The Leos in the evac zone are standing around waiting for looters with boosted funding. The firefighters bust their asses with diminished resources and reduced funding, and the slaves make $20 to work 24 hours in the trenches. Exactly. I think there is a real reason for why police and even the National Guard must create a security perimeter around these disaster zones. Okay? That I get that. You do that specifically so that you can open up pathways for emergency vehicles in times of need. You can do that, or you must do that, to ensure that random people don't go back to their houses, and then that becomes an additional problem for the emergency services to deal with, because now you have to rescue people. Okay? That makes sense. You can just say that and, you know, be perfectly fine, but they have to overemphasize the looting aspect. Okay? They have to consistently talk about how they're going to blow away any looter that comes, that even looks in the direction of a house, no matter how smoldering. Okay?
Will be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
This was the view from Jonathan Esham's home Tuesday as the Eaton fire raced towards it.
Almost what I would say.
Yeah, people needed supplies to survive because National Guard couldn't reach them. It fueled people taking the law into their own hands on top of spooking cops with the rhetoric. It contributed to killings like the Danziger Bridge tragedy. This is in Katrina, the famous Danziger Bridge tragedy, where they just straight up shot like a bunch of black people under the suspicion that they were looting. I think this is dangerous and irresponsible by local and national news media to consistently heighten the tensions in times where people are already in crisis.
The surface of the sun might look like, you know, it was just pure chaos and panic everywhere.
He evacuated, and while the fire stayed out, it appears someone tried to break in, busting out a window and trying to pry this one open.
The idea that somebody could have been in your house while you guys were evacuated.
It's horrifying. Like, I don't even want to imagine it.
A horror disgustingly man-made in the middle of this massive natural disaster. For CBS Saturday Morning, I'm Chris Van Cleve in Altadena, California.
Jesus Christ. What? Cops seem unnecessarily aggressive too?
I like that bed.
Oh, this is a YouTuber.
Purple pillow that Mel gave me. It was also very comfy. This is my hamper. Got my hamper right here, all my dirty clothes. Yeah, they need to get washed for sure. This is where my desk was in this corner. And one thing I'm very sad I didn't get out of here before it burned down was my laptop that had a lot of my family and friend photos on it. Photos of my girlfriend and I, the cats that unfortunately were not backed up anywhere else. And it seems to be gone now. This is the office. This was the small office in my house that was really just used for storage for the greater part of my stay here. You can see that there's some tech stuff in the corner, like this this PC. PC still got a power supply in it, so I'm going to be aware of that. But I believe this was a Cooler Master case.
Oh, it's earlier before the police confront him?
Of course we are.
We're meeting up with one of my friends, Alvaro, right now, who has a truck. It's much higher off the ground than my car, which we're going to need if we plan to access my house.
I don't mean to be rude, but how do people in that area not have important things in a box by the door right now? Dude, I don't think you understand. The Altadena fires just came out of nowhere, and so did the Pacific Palisades ones. Like, it straight up escalated to this point that no one thought it would have. It happened virtually in a matter of like 30 to 40 minutes. This is not an area where there is a lot of wildfire impact. The reality of the matter is that it also, I think, like it's such a, like it's a normal, mostly concrete region. It's not like it's surrounded by forests either. I mean, there's forest around it, but like it just burst into flames, you know? There's not really much you can do. That's why people say it's unprecedented.
So McDonald's is the rendezvous point where we're going to meet Alvaro. He should be here any second. Alvaro and his doomsday truck have arrived. Check it out, brother.
Holy crap. Whoa. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Like, look at these streets. Like, does this strike you as a area that's like predisposed to wildfires like normally? No, it's not. It's on fire every year at this point. Assume your house is going to burn. There are certain areas that are at higher risk of, at higher risk of wildfires. The expectation is not that like every single part of Southern California could light on fire at any given moment, especially in January too. That's another part of this. Like it's not even wildfire season. It's supposed to be
the intersection, about to pull onto my street, but it looks blocked off. All right, here we go. We're gonna have to fabricate a bit of a story here to see if the cops will let us by. We're just gonna say that we're gonna swing by my house or what's left of it to grab my office keys if they're still surviving. That way I can actually have a place to stay for the night.
Are they only letting one person in at a time, or what's the story? Let me get out and talk.
Okay.
Wow, he calls for backup. Why is he putting his hand on his fucking gun?
They are telling us to go down. They're not super happy.
I gotta wait for them to go so I can turn around. I'm trying to. Okay, all right. Wow.
It does look like they're letting people walk up. They just don't want vehicles driving up the hill. So I think we're just gonna park and just go by foot.
Look how good the cops are, dude. I'm so glad that they're protecting and serving, you know? Oh, that's so sick.
Alvaro brought shovels for us so that we can sift through the ash a bit easier. So we got 2 shovels, and Mike has a hoe because he has a...
They don't want the vehicles in there, for those of you who don't know. They don't want the vehicles in there because they don't want looters, okay? That's it. Because they think that everyone that's coming in to the neighborhood with a vehicle is not actually people like this who just want to go through the rummage through their remains, okay? But instead, that they are all up to no good. They're, you know, they're there for nefarious purpose.
a hoe. Wow. Unfortunately, my house is pretty much the last one on the street. So we actually have maybe a mile and a half to walk up this very steep hill before we get there. Quite a bit of scenery on the way.
Palisades median house price $3.5 million. This is not in the Palisades. This is Altadena, I think.
Like this broken power line that's been split in two.
Right. He's in Altadena, right, chat? Yeah. This is not like a particularly expensive neighborhood. By the way, I this is like kind of sad, but the cops straight up in a matter of seconds proved the point I was making. If you're black or brown, especially so, where they're just like so gung-ho. They got their hands like just understand, your house is burned to the ground. You're there to go back to the remains to see what you can sift through, okay, in the rubble. And you are faced with a complete dipshit who was ready to kill you on the spot for no reason. Okay? They just walk up to you, hand on hip, hand on their service weapon. You're like, oh, pull out now. Turn around now. It's like, what are you doing? What's happening here? Like, what an insane situation.
And hanging precariously, seemingly by a thread. This power line is completely sideways. That motorcycle's all right. Those cars are not. This used to be a house.
The craziest one is the Honda dirt bike that I saw that was like still functional. The Honda dirt bike that was still functional, even though it was half burned, like half of it was charred. The plastic was just not from this video. I saw it on TikTok. And they give more money to the cops and the firefighters for looters instead of the actual fires. Yeah.
It is no longer. Yeah, the damage is getting...
How are they supposed to know who's a looter and who's not? Okay, this is the problem with the initial assessment that like everyone that's trying to go back here is a looter, just so you understand. But also, they demand identification to make sure that the only people that are allowed into these areas are people that live there. But there's still obviously issues with that as well. What if you left your house in a panic and your ID is burned to a crisp? Okay, what do you do then? You just can't go back to your house? Okay. What if your address is not of your residence at this point? What do you do then? There are plenty of people who have old IDs that they never actually updated their addresses on.
Getting increasingly intense, and the air quality is getting increasingly worse. Really?
Yeah, how do you know who committed a crime or not? Should cops just arrest everyone then? Silly ass question.
Gotta wear your K95s here. It's getting pretty hard.
I really want you to unpause the fucking vehicle they lit in. Cops are just shit. They were about to get picked up by a truck that the cops led into the area.
Breathe. Another sketchy power line and something still smoldering over there. We're gonna go around this caution tape cautiously. That is, that's the bottom of a power line. Whoa, that is like molten metal coming from the car.
Look at the brakes.
Holy crap.
They literally were working on this.
Is that a Porsche?
All right. Wow, this is brutal. Yeah. And some lots are just completely leveled. This one just has a chimney. That's all that's left, is a chimney. I mean,
The other part of this is like, this area is totally devastated. Like, what are looters going to loot in this area, man? Like, I get if there is an evacuation order placed upon certain areas where there's like homes that still remain, but this is like all ash. Like, what are they gonna? They're gonna loot the cinder? Oh man, I love free charcoal. You know what I'm saying?
I've passed by these houses a million times, and some of them I've admired. You know, just looking at the front yards and how they did things, and taking mental notes for future plans in my own house.
There's the one house that it was stayed intact.
Yeah, it's looking a little different today. Wires. Hopefully they've cut all the power to those, but better to be safe than sorry.
That was or an RV? That was or an RV? Dude, that's fun.
What?
There's a possum in this thing.
Is that a possum?
Oh yeah, there's a dead possum in a trap. It's all ash. Literally, the next house is lootable. Brother, there is one house that's standing. What are you talking about? You saw this entire neighborhood, and there is one house that is intact in the entire neighborhood. Looters are going to be hitting that one house? Is that what you think is going on? Do you think this is appropriate use of funds in that regard? 26-month subscriber. Still, anyone and everyone is actually always invested in looting. Okay? Everyone and anyone. All right? All the time. We have to hyper focus on this. Okay? We have to make sure that this is the most. I like that you sat through me pausing and doing commentary for 20 minutes over this video to find the one house that's intact next to a house that is burned to the ground in an entire city block that is completely reduced to ash. And you're like, well, what if the people wanted to loot this house? You're right, man. What if? You're right. Is this a normal way to exist? I don't understand it. I feel like this is not city behavior, but I guess with the way that suburbs work, there's more and more people like this who operate with this mentality where they're constantly in a panicked situation where they're just like, because if chatter, I don't know if you live in a city or not, but like anyone could technically walk up to you in the middle of the road and just put one in the back of your head. Okay? Anyone, literally anyone could do that right now. When you go outside to get groceries, someone could walk up to you and stab you to death. Okay? Do you think that that is a valid way to approach everyday existence? Do you think that that kind of panic is, I don't know, healthy to have? Great, new fear unlocked. Yeah, anyone could walk up to you right now. Anyone could walk up to you right now when you're on your way to pick up chicken tendies at your local grocery store, walk up to you and go, hey, give me all your money, and then shoot you in the head. If it's not healthy, if it wasn't healthy thinking, why do conservatives already think it? Because they're unhealthy. That's the problem. They're deeply unhealthy. The point is, especially if you live in a city, there's a certain level of danger that can always occur, but there's also a tremendous amount of safety that comes from being around other people. And if you've never lived in a normal city, it is impossible for you to comprehend this. That's the reason why when Austin stays with me and he hears constant police sirens, okay, on major roads, he freaks out. He just thinks like bedlam is happening, because in his neighborhood, if he constantly heard, in his suburb, if he constantly heard police sirens, something terrible must be happening. Okay? While the likelihood that you have a lot of people around you increases the likelihood that danger might come your way, okay? There's also safety in being surrounded by other human beings.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, all the way down pretty much.
I guess they are letting trucks in.
All right, this is good.
Okay, this is my next door neighbor's house. Didn't make it.
Holy shit.
And my place.
Is this damage control? What do you mean? Anyway, I personally am more afraid of like quiet suburbs. Anyway, here's some updates from local officials on Eaton Fire.
And finally, to our Los Angeles County residents, please be assured that we will continue to battle these wildfires until they are fully contained. We stand alongside all of you as we begin to plan for repopulation of evacuated areas, disaster recovery, and the rebuilding of your homes and
Research and reports often show that looting during natural disasters is rare and communities typically come together to help one another. The belief that looting is widespread can be more reflective of societal anxieties than reality, and it might be perpetuated by capitalist structures that emphasize the importance of property over human welfare. Yeah. No, absolutely. And this doesn't mean that like there is no looting, okay? This doesn't mean that there is no looting that occurs. Of course there is, all right? Of course, yes, there are really desperate people who do incredibly vicious things. But if your expectation is that like there's constant danger that is going to happen in the aftermath of a natural disaster that comes from your fellow man, you're going to lose your mind.
That we're talking about here, that's residential community. It's not wildland. It's a residence, and these are people's houses. So huge Herculean task to get through all this down here. We have a ton of work. It's many days, many weeks of work. Just wanted to highlight that a little bit. As we come through by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, this is looking good. Again, crews engaged, boots on the ground, mopping up. All through the National Forest up here, we continue to make really good progress up there. The weather's in our favor. We're using air tankers, we're using helicopters, all the tools in our toolbox to go get and put this fire out right where you see it right here. So that'll be our goals in the coming days. So thank you very much.
Now we're going to have Los Angeles County Sheriff Commander Tanya E. Plunkett.
Good afternoon. I'd like to take this time to update you on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's effort in dealing with the Eaton Canyon fire. Currently, in response to the fire, our staffing has increased to approximately 500 personnel. Within the personnel, we have active missions, which include controlling traffic points, of approximately 46 hard closures, and traffic control. We also have roving security to deal with looting and address those issues. And when necessary, respond to welfare requests and at the direction of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. As you may be well aware that last night we instituted a curfew order which went into effect from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and currently within the evacuation zones. It's important to know that these zones are going to be strictly enforced, and the reasons behind them is to enhance public security and address enhance public safety and address public security concerns. Within the curfew, we're asking everyone to stay clear of the affected zones unless they are authorized personnel or emergency responders. Anyone found in violation of the curfew order will be subject to a misdemeanor crime and subject to $1,000 fine.
Imagine your city being on fire and you use your platform to play Marvel Rivals and ban anyone that talks about the fires. Who did that? Why are you taking your anxieties and anger and frustration with other content creators to my chat for some reason? Are you okay? Like, see, this is what I'm Pokemon. Okay, dude.
6 a.m. and in at 6 p.m. That search and rescue team, we are working jointly with our partners from Los Angeles County Fire Urban Rescue, the Coroner's Office, FEMA, OEM, and the use of cadaver dogs to search for remains and reunite families, most importantly. These searches will be a part of a grid search, like I mentioned, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. due to safety concerns and our inability to operate during nighttime hours. Fortunately, we report that we have 8 deaths within the Eaton Canyon fire area that was affected by the fire. And in an effort to deal with the death and the tragedies as a result of this fire, we do have, working with our partners, family assistance centers that are open to provide information to people looking for missing family members, and that location is the Pasadena Civic Center. It will be comprised of OEM, sheriff's deputies, PD, Red Cross, the medical examiner, and
yeah, they also implemented a curfew, a 6 p.m. curfew, while simultaneously there's like evacuation orders in place, which I think is so wild because at the same time, it's like they're doing the curfew because they're like, oh, if you're ever in or around your house after 6 p.m., that means you're a looter. Like then the arrest numbers are going to go up, basically. That's it. Because the assessment in that situation is like, if you're in or around an impacted neighborhood after 6 p.m., that must mean that you're there to do, you know, illegal things like stealing. Is there still a fire near you? Chatter, I am in the heart of Los Angeles, which means I am surrounded 3 parts by fire. Although, having said that, I'm also very far away at the same time. Like, this is the situation right now. Look, I'm in this area. Okay, I'm in this area. There's the Eaton fire, the near Pasadena, Altadena. And then there is the Palisades fire that has seemingly made its way into densely populated areas of Encino. But overall, the West Hollywood area is not impacted directly. Didn't share this link. This is Watch Duty. It has been an incredibly helpful app. I've been using it since these fires started. Is Will's house fine? Yes, but I believe that they are covered and caked in smoke. And Will was saying that it's probably not healthy to inhale that level of smoke still. Yeah.
From the city.
New Orleans Police Department versus unarmed civilians, the Danziger Bridge, 19 years later.
Of New Orleans.
If you want to understand what the looting panic turns into, here's a terrifying story.
Nearly empty, still partly underwater, and waiting for life and hope to return.
Welcome to another episode of In Range. Yes, this is a republication of a video that I filmed 9 years ago. I sat on this footage for 4 years and wasn't sure what to do with it, and published it in 2020, realizing that these things needed to be talked about more, not less, especially with the events going on in that year. And this video is being republished on the 19th anniversary of the events discussed in this video. And 19 years later, it's hard to look around and say that anything's really gotten better. All the men that were ostensibly police officers that killed these people and maimed a family are now out and free. And situations like this are recurring over and over and over again. And if another disaster like Katrina were to happen again today, I don't think it would be any different. And that's a problem. And that's an issue we need to face. And a situation in which we have to understand that there's something wrong when agents of the state can come and kill you based on your color, your identity, whether or not you own a gun, whether or not they think you might have had a gun or not, whether you do or don't. And then do things like try to cover it up with, quote, a ham sandwich or a drop gun, or worse, don't even try to cover it up and realize that qualified immunity and the system will protect them.
Don't be afraid of being sued. Everybody gets sued. Just a chance for overtime.
Philology.
Now, did some of these men serve some time in prison? Yes. Did they serve the time that you or I would have received for doing what they did? Absolutely not. So in this instance, when we hear Lieutenant Colonel Grossman talk about how they are the samurai, well, he's right. They are held at a higher rank than the rest of us.
I saw on Twitter that your house burned down. Is that true? What do you think? Does it look like it's burned down? Am I streaming from the ashes?
Civilians here in this country, and the militarization of the police, and the situations that are occurring within it, and the systemic problems that are occurring because of it, continue 19 years later. I hope you watch this video. I hope you think about the fact that this is still going on today, and take a moment to remember the lives lost on that day, on September 4th, 2005, when people were just trying to find some water in a natural disaster that was actually man-made due to the inefficiency of the U.S. government in protecting the city with its levees and corporations allowing derricks to crash through levees and flood entire neighborhoods here. If you want to learn more about that, check this video above regarding the Battle of New Orleans. Anyways, a somber note on a somber day, 19 years later. Please watch. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of In Range. This is a difficult topic today.
During Katrina, we were out of power and listening to a radio news report from a NG helicopter flying over NOLA. The reporter was talking about the floods until we heard shots. And one of the NG goons said, "I got that fucker." And the broadcast cut out. Stuck with me to this day.
And the footage you're going to see was filmed 4 years ago. Yes, 4 years ago. And the reason I've been sitting on this video content is because I haven't been sure when I could publish it. The reality is that I've been waiting for an opportunity to publish this video in which it would not be seen in the light of the current situation or current events, because people would think that I'm publishing this in response to a current event. And the reality is there's never been a chance in 4 years to publish this video where it wouldn't be.
You said the fear of living your day-to-day life is dumb. That why do you talk about how systemic racism still exists, which people fear any interaction with a cop, which definitely isn't healthy? Okay, I don't think you understand. Think about it like the statistical likelihood of something bad happening to you. Okay, if police and police presence disproportionately harm people of color, there is a high likelihood of an interaction turning south with a cop, especially when the structures have allowed a police officer to do whatever they want to you. Okay? On the other hand, given that you are surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people living in a densely packed city environment on a day-to-day basis, the likelihood of you being a victim of a crime is infinitely lower in any random interaction. There's a reasonable fear to have, or a reasonable assessment, and an unreasonable one. That's the argument that I'm making. Okay? You're more likely to be struck by lightning than get killed by a cop. That's really interesting that you said that, because I wasn't talking about a police just killing you. Okay? That's not what I was stating. Do you understand? Also, how many people die by lightning wait, there is no way that's true. How many people die by lightning every year in the US? Because, Chatter, you are so incredibly wrong. Okay? You are 100 times, there are 100 times more people that die in the hands of cops every year than get killed by lightning. Why did you say that? 20 people die by lightning every year in the United States of America. 2,000 people die by cops. Well, maybe not 2,000. What is it? Let's see. Police killings in... Oh, it's not because of race. Wait, what? That's crazy. So you just put forth a completely ridiculous number and then immediately got disproven and then moved on to say, oh, that's not the case. I was like, it's just stupid. Stop. It's not about race. It's not about race at all. It's not 2,000. It's 1,000. I apologize. So not 100 times more likely, but 50 times. Police kill around 1,000 people, give or take, every single year. It's a 50x multiplier. Listen, bro, as far as violence goes, an estimated 250,000 civilian injuries are caused by law enforcement officers annually. 15% of civilians who experience police threat of use of force during legal interventions are injured. 250,000 civilians are injured by law enforcement officers annually. It's not just about if someone dies of a police attack is likely not because of race. Oh my God. Yeah, there are racist cops, but I don't know why you're in here trying to argue something that I wasn't even saying. This is like what you are trying to argue. Okay? Police are disproportionately more police have a higher likelihood of targeting you and even apprehending you and arresting you, okay, if you are not white. That's it.
Seen as a commentary on a current event. So I'm going to give up on that idea because it's never going to happen, and I'm going to publish it because I think it's important to be published. One of the topics that I, Carl, cover here on InRange TV are issues of historical significance that I believe are intentionally left out of the general population's narrative, culturally lost, whether it is Old West or modern. Things that have been intentionally left off of the general understanding is something that I believe should be brought to light, because it's those topics that really give us insight into society, whether it's historical or current. And the one that I'm covering today is about the murder of a number of innocent and unarmed civilians on Danziger Bridge, September 4th, 2005, just a few days after Hurricane Katrina. And while you are inevitably going to paint this in the light of whatever current event is going on today, whether you're watching it right now in May of 2020 or watching it in November of 2025, I have an unsettling feeling that there'll be something going on in this country that will make you think that this video was published in response to that, and that is not the case. I also am going to dub in moments through this video, things that I have been able to find out more after the fact and hopefully correct the narrative. The other thing that I do want you to understand is that this is wholly my work.
I think it's not. It's not a. I mean, it's relevant to the looting argument, but I think it's like directly talking about the Danziger Bridge. The directly talking about the Danziger Bridge shootings is probably a better way to do it. On the morning of September 4, 2005, 6 days after Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans, members of the New Orleans Police Department, ostensibly responding to a call from an officer under fire, shot and killed 2 civilians at the Danziger Bridge, a 17-year-old James Brissett and a 40-year-old Ronald Mason. 4 other civilians were wounded. All the victims were black. None were armed or had committed any crime. Madison, a mentally disabled man, was shot in the back. The shootings caused public anger and further eroded the community trust of the New Orleans Police Department and the federal response to Hurricane Katrina overall. The New Orleans Police Department, of course, predictably attempted to cover up the killings, falsely reporting that 7 police officers responded to a police dispatch reporting an officer down, and that at least 4 suspects were firing weapons at the officers upon their arrival. Reverend Raymond Brown, the local head of the National Action Network, described the shootings as a racial tragedy. On August 5th, 2011, a federal jury in New Orleans convicted 5 NOPD officers of myriad charges related to the cover-up and deprivation of civil rights. An attorney for the U.S. Justice Department described the case as the most significant police misconduct prosecution in the U.S. since the Rodney King beating case. However, the convictions were vacated on September 17, 2013 by U.S. District Judge Kurt Engelhardt due to prosecutorial misconduct, and a new trial was ordered. The Justice Department appealed the decision to vacate the convictions, but a federal appeals court agreed that a new trial was warranted. On April 20th, 2016, the 5 former officers pleaded guilty to various charges related to the shooting and in return received reduced sentences ranging from 3 to 12 years in prison. 3 of the officers are white and 2 are black. Officers arrived in a budget rental truck. None of them were in uniform. They were armed with rifles, including AK-47s, at least one of which was unauthorized, and an M4 carbine. A witness, Casimir Gaston, described the officers as lining up like at a firing range. The officers opened fire without warning on the Bartholomew family and friend who had been walking to a grocery store and were then sheltering behind a concrete barrier. As a result of this initial shooting, 17-year-old James Brissett, a family friend, was killed. 4 other civilians were wounded. Susan Bartholomew's arm was partially shot off and later had to be amputated. Her husband Leonard was shot in the back, head, and foot. The Bartholomew's teenage daughter Leisha was shot 4 times. Jose Holmes Jr., a friend of Brissett's, was shot in the abdomen, the hand, and the jaw. 2 brothers who fled the scene, Ronald and Lance Madison, were pursued down the bridge by officers Gisevius and Falcon in an unmarked Louisiana State Police vehicle. Falcon fired his shotgun from the back of the car at Ronald, a developmentally disabled man who later died from his injuries. The autopsy found that Ronald sustained 7 gunshot wounds, 5 of them in his back. Bowen was later convicted of stomping Madison on the back before he died, though this conviction was overturned for a lack of physical evidence. Lance was then taken into custody and charged with 8 counts of attempting to kill police officers. He was held in custody for 3 weeks before being released without indictment. No weapons were recovered at the scene, and both police and civilian witnesses testified that the victims had been unarmed. They basically set out to engage in a paramilitary death squad as you know, police officers not even using their service weapons, using their own personal guns, because they wanted to go out and shoot and kill what they perceived, get free kills, legal kills on what they perceived were looters. Okay? They weren't even in police gear. They had no indications that they were police. American hero Chris Kyle, American hero in air quotes, Chris Kyle also lied about sniping black people off of the top of the Superdome. Okay? Sniping what he called looters, getting confirmed kills. This was, of course, not real. And it was crazy that he thought that this would make him look good. He was never actually even, you know, there were no repercussions for him even lying about committing this racist act of violence. Many years after, he still got a wonderful little movie about his completely made up record. At that point, you can't even call it stealing valor. I would say that he was stealing vices. He was lying about engaging in a racialized lynching.
Oh! We had a whole house. Now we have nothing.
That was our chimney where Santa comes and now it's gone.
Everything that we built here to just be gone.
Everyone has lost everything here.
I have to start all over again. I can't.
We have fire of Hastings Range.
Happy the family is
the most important thing.
A nightmare that no one can wake up from. That's what they're saying in LA. At least 11 people are dead and even more missing. A chunk of land the size of San Francisco has been destroyed. Some of the most beautiful land in the world. Parts of Pacific Palisades look like Hiroshima after the atomic bomb. Entire communities decimated. In Altadena, about a dozen homes are left in a neighborhood of 5,000 people.
Dude, I find this so strange when they look at a natural disaster and then compare it to man-made horrors beyond comprehension. But you like the man-made horrors beyond comprehension. Like it's so weird. It's such a strange thing to be like, yeah, it looks like Hiroshima. And it was good when it happened to Hiroshima.
People. 3 major fires are still uncontained as crews are bracing for another weekend of the powerful Santa Ana winds. On the streets, it's turning into the wild, wild west. Looters on scooters ransacking homes. Thieves are dashing through rubble and ash.
Dude, it's so funny. Like, this is half the chatters think this, by the way, according to all of the people that I have responded to, at least. Half of the chatters in this community are just like, you don't understand, dude. When the looting starts, the shooting starts, brother. You're crazy.
Ash with flat screens. Some of them disguised as fire officials and utility workers. The looting is so out of hand that some residents are scared to leave their burned out homes. The governor, Newsom, says looting will not be tolerated. These communities have suffered enough. Well, unless they loot less than $950, then Gavin doesn't mind. One of the Winklevoss twins called out Newsom saying this, quote, "You and your party have been tolerating looting for years. You normalize this behavior and lawlessness. You are a disgrace. Resign now." It's a free-for-all in LA. Every man for themselves, literally. Yesterday, local residents had to take down a vagrant with a blowtorch. They witnessed him setting fire to old Christmas trees and garbage cans. Neighbors called 911, and before the police arrived, they detained him with zip ties and a rope. A good old-fashioned citizen's arrest. Here's LAPD.
What we know right now is that the incident occurred, started here, and about 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, a suspect was detained over in Woodland Hills area by citizens.
So someone purposely set the Kenneth fire?
At this time, that's what we believe, yes.
Do you know how or why they did that?
That I don't know.
Is this a crime scene right now?
Yes.
Dude, my thing is, if you have an institution, an organization like the police department that is, you know, very invested in looting narratives and very invested in like showing that they're doing a great job, if that police department says there's not enough evidence to suggest that this person is an arsonist, right? When they could have just as easily lied, as they do time and time again. If there's enough evidence to stick on a person, then that person might not have actually committed an arson. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Because cops detain people all the time. The very fact that they're still running with this idea that this guy was definitely an arsonist. And I'm not saying that there wasn't any arson or anything like that. I'm simply stating that I do not know. But the way I see it is like, if this dude had any evidence that the police could pin on him for being an arsonist, then they would have kept him in detention for the suspicion that he did the arson. Is Fox News saying the police lied? I don't understand what Fox News is saying. I think they're just going along with what the initial suspicion was.
So everything's closed off.
It's being investigated as a crime.
Police brought him down to the station and a few hours later released him back onto the streets. They said there was no probable cause to charge him with arson, even though there was a half a dozen witnesses who saw him setting things on fire and the guy to blowtorch on him when they...
Like, what is the argument here? That cops want to let, like, arsonists go? Like, what is happening? I can't... Oh, my God. Oh, my God. We are losing our minds, dude. Like, I don't know why this dude is biking around with a blowtorch. Okay? I don't know. And I understand why those civilians thought that he was an arsonist. Okay? I get it. If you see a random dude on a bike with a blowtorch, you're like, that, you know, you're not, your first inclination is not, oh, he's probably using it to do dabs. Okay? Especially when there's a wildfire going on. But the difference is, I understand the motivation of the police department in getting a ginormous W. Can you imagine how great of a justification it is for your expansive budgets if you caught an arsonist? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's a fantastic major dub, massive W, right? So they have all the more reason to say this person is an arsonist. And yet they're not saying that. Instead, they're saying that they don't have enough evidence to suggest that this guy is an arsonist. So for Fox News to make it seem as though, like, nah, the woke police let this guy go, like, you're living on an alternative universe.
They arrested him. That's not probable cause. So what was he doing with the blowtorch? Lighting a blunt? If this wasn't a homeless guy, I'm not sure, because homeless accounted for over half of the fires in LA.
Wait, what?
Based on that statistic, there's a strong probability that a homeless guy burned the city down. But we're waiting for the investigation to play out. Homes have been completely toasted, and some people say it feels intentional. Here's...
Oh my God, dude, the police are woke. It's actually the homeless. There's no evidence to suggest that this was man-made at all, but we're just going to go with that. Like, that is crazy. The idea that fire inspectors would ignore arson evidence and suspects is completely insane, especially in Cali, where there was once a fire inspector who was himself an arsonist. Yeah, it's just, I'm not trying to be woke here, okay? I'm not. I'm simply urging people to exercise critical thinking and caution. That's it. You know what my biases are, okay? But I'm not applying them in this situation. I'm telling you right now, I don't know, okay? We do not know. We will eventually find out. There will be a tremendous amount of investigation conducted into what started these fires. I know that because I've seen previous wildfires where similar suspicions were raised by the very same charlatans, okay? But as far as looking at the story, yeah, I thought initially when I saw a dude on a bike with a blowtorch being apprehended by random citizens, yeah, I was like, oh shit, it might actually be an arson. At least one of these fires might actually be an arson. That's an understandable assessment to make in this circumstance. Okay? Not to say that all of the fires are caused by arson or they're caused by homeless people or undocumented migrants or whatever. I'm not saying that at all, but it could have very well been the case. But then the police immediately came out and revealed that they did not have any evidence to suggest that this person had caused a fire at all. It's over at that point. Like, what are we doing? You see someone with a blowtorch, but did you see it? Or was it just what you heard? No, we saw it, dude. What are you talking about? There's footage. Like, yes, it is a dude with a blowtorch. It's funny, blaming your own viewers too is the homeless fault, and especially those victims who lost their homes and became homeless. Good job, Fox News. Bro, you know he did it, right? Hassan, you know the location of the Kenneth fire was an ember from the Palisades. The wind was going in the opposite direction, and they're nowhere near each other. It was right above Hidden Hills. Honestly, no doubt in my mind he was an arsonist. You need evidence in this country, though? Brother, what are you saying? Like, do you think the police would let someone go if there was any inclination that they were an arsonist? This person was an arsonist? Jesse W. photo. Oh my God, it's Jesse Waters. It's Jesse Waters' photo. Oh my God, it's Jesse Waters' account. Jesse Waters, a 9-month subscriber. Yes, actually, you think the police... I'm jumping to conclusion, brother. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. When I saw this video initially, I thought, yeah, they got an arsonist. I get it. I understand why you would think that. It makes sense. It looks like a duck. It walks like a duck. You're like, oh, it's a duck. But then the duck hunter turns around and tells you it's not a duck. What are you supposed to do? Be like, nah, he still did it. I know it. Like, you can't. What if it's just bad policing? Bad policing is not what you think it is if you think letting a guy like this go is bad policing. Okay? First of all, he's brown. If he was a white dude in an Acura or above, okay, and they let him go, that would be bad policing, like the Ted Bundy case, very famous case, where cops just like let him walk past him because he was a handsome white gentleman, okay? That would be bad policing. Bad policing in other circumstances is keeping people detained under faulty evidence or no evidence whatsoever. Bad policing doesn't go in the direction of like letting especially black or brown criminals or suspected criminals, escape. Bad policing doesn't go in this direction. It goes in the opposite direction, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, having said that, I'm not saying carrying torches around in the open is not sus. I think it's sus too. What are you talking about? I know, I'm recognizing that. Anyway, the point I was making is that when there are multiple major wildfires taking place with 80 to 100 mile winds, okay, that are swinging telephone poles and power lines wildly in the direction of overgrown shrubbery that is right up in the ass cheeks of those power lines, as you see electrical sparks and you immediately go, must be arson. It's like, that feels a little wild. That feels like a jump that you are taking. Okay? Literally woke warrior on a natural cause. I just don't think the police would lie like that, though. They're instructed and they swear an oath. Wait, you're baiting, right? There's a term for it. It's called test-a-lying. Yeah, police would never lie under oath. I'm a woke warrior. You're right.
Half a dozen witnesses who saw him setting things on fire and the guy to blowtorch on him when they arrested him. That's not probable cause. So what was he doing with the blowtorch? Lighting a blunt?
Since I thought, oh, damn.
Anyway,
based on that statistic,
he then follows up by saying, like, from 2021, homelessness-related fires made up 54% of all fires that the department responded to.
There's a strong probability.
He assumes that guy is a homeless person and also an arsonist, which is crazy.
That a homeless guy burned the city down. But we're waiting for the investigation to play out.
But the funniest assumption, in my opinion, here is that the cops are woke and let him go.
Been completely toasted, and some people say it feels intentional. Here's Mel Gibson.
It's very sad, and there were many things, gone.
Yeah. Here's further evidence. Here's further evidence that will defend my point here. Further evidence by a man who I can only explain as going through a mental health episode. A very public mental health episode.
On in the blaze that, I've thought about since I thought, oh.
Here's famous racists going through it in broad daylight.
Oh, damn, that's too bad. But, works of art, photographs, rare books, old books. Some as old as, 1600, it's like crazy.
Irreplaceable.
And irreplaceable stuff. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose?
All these fires should have been contained within 24 hours. It's the duty of a politician to prepare for the worst. And everyone saw this fire coming.
I talked to a fireman once. This is one of the reasons it freaked me out. He goes, dude, one day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind and fire is going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean. And there's not a thing we can do about it. I go, really? He goes, yeah, we just get lucky. He goes, we get lucky with the wind. He goes, but if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it.
Yeah. You know who else also made these predictions aside from the firefighters or the one firefighter that happened to talk to Joe Rogan? Climate scientists, but they're woke and gay. So obviously, what do they know? All they know is eat hot chip and, invest in renewable energies and lie.
So how well was California prepared?
Damn, this guy's good.